Zayden was still laughing when his body started to twitch. Tiffany's smile froze. Her wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the hardwood floor. Around the table, her smug little circle of friends were choking, hands at their throats, eyes bulging, panic exploding in the room like a grenade. I didn't move. I just sat there, calmly watching it all happen. 10 minutes earlier, that same group was laughing at me. And Tiffany, my wife, the woman I built my life around, stood up in front of everyone, grabbed a plate of spaghetti, and smashed it into my face. The sauce burned. The noodles slapped against my cheek. And she said, with that cruel, rehearsed grin, "I always knew you were better on your knees." They laughed like it was a game, like I was the clown at their private roast. What they didn't know was that dinner had been the rehearsal. This was the performance. Let me back up, just for a second. Because if you're wondering how we got from pasta to panic, it started with silence. Mine. Too many nights pretending not to see her smirks at her phone. Too many mornings waking up to a cold bed and hotter lies. And Zayden? The man who sat in my chair, drank my wine, and ran his fingers along her thigh under the table like I wasn't even there? He was the final note in a song that had been playing for months. I just hadn't turned the volume up high enough until now. So yeah, maybe this dinner was my idea. Maybe I cooked the food. Maybe I poured every glass. And maybe I knew exactly who they really were when they laughed at me. But now they knew who I was. And the real story, the one you came for, starts right here, in this room, with a plate of spaghetti still dripping from my face, and my wife gasping for air as the siren screamed louder in the distance. This wasn't revenge. This was the truth served cold. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of guilt, because there wasn't any. Just clarity. When the sirens faded and the lights stopped flashing against the walls of my house, when the paramedics rolled out the bodies and the neighbors whispered behind their curtains, I was still sitting there. Same spot. Same calm. Just me and the stain of marinara sauce drying on my collar like a scar. You want to know how I found out? It started with a pair of heels. Not just any heels, those red ones. Tiffany never wore them around me. Said they hurt her feet. Said they were too much. But one Thursday night, I came home early from work. My meeting had been canceled last minute, and I thought I'd surprise her. Instead, I surprised myself. The living room was dark, but I heard music upstairs. Something slow, sultry. I crept up like a stranger in my own house. Our bedroom door was cracked open, and through it, I saw Tiffany standing in front of the mirror, adjusting those red heels, and nothing else. Her hair was pinned up. Her perfume hung in the air like a lie. She wasn't getting dressed. She was getting ready. She didn't hear me step back. Didn't see me take the stairs down like a ghost. I sat in the kitchen, hands clenched, heart numb, and waited. At exactly 8:42 p.m., a black BMW pulled into the driveway. Not mine. I watched from the shadows as she ran downstairs, laughing, glowing, lips glossed and curled into something I hadn't seen in years. She didn't even look back. They drove off. I didn't follow. Not that night. I didn't scream or break things. I just sat there, cold, silent, watching the way everything I built slipped through a crack I didn't know was even there. She came back 3 hours later, reeking of musk and arrogance. "Didn't hear you come in," she said casually, slipping off the heels like they didn't mean anything. "How was your day?" I nodded. "Fine." And that's when I knew. She thought I was weak. She thought I wouldn't do anything. And honestly, she wasn't wrong, not yet. But I started watching. Every detail. Every whisper. Every text she tried to hide by angling her phone away. Every fake smile. Every girl's night that ended in silence and red lipstick smudges on her collar. Not mine. It got worse. She started bringing her friends over. The giggling ones. Chelsea. Madison. Some guy named Trevor who always just happened to show up after me. They made jokes in front of me. They tested how far they could go before I snapped. Turns out, very far. The night I found the hotel receipt in her jacket pocket was the final nail. Room 408. 2 nights. Champagne ordered at 2 a.m. A message on the bill that read, "You wore those heels just for me." I memorized the handwriting. That's how I knew it was Zayden. He had a habit of signing his name like a teenager, looped letters, a little heart where the dot should be over the I. Like he thought he was a gift. I laughed when I saw it. Not because it was funny, but because that's when the idea started forming. The dinner. The setup. The finale. And now? They were gone. Or close enough to it. And me? I had finally stopped pretending. You can only be betrayed so many times before silence becomes strategy. And if Tiffany thought a plate of spaghetti to the face would be the peak of my humiliation, she had no idea what rock bottom looked like for me. But she was about to. And trust me, we're just getting started. They kept me at the station for 6 hours. The officer across the table, Detective Marshall, tried every tactic in the book. Soft voice, hard voice, the good cop, bad cop act. He leaned forward, eyes narrowed, asking again and again, "Did you know what was in the wine?" And I kept repeating the same line. I drank it too. Technically true. I had a sip. Just enough not to look suspicious. Just enough not to join them on the floor. He didn't have anything. No direct evidence, no confession. Just a room full of unconscious narcissists and a man who'd had enough. They let me go. Outside, the air was sharp and clean, like the city itself didn't know how to process what had just happened. I lit a cigarette, even though I hadn't smoked in years, and let the silence stretch. The moment I walked to my car, I saw her, Tiffany, sitting on the hood, arms crossed, pale, furious, alive. The ambulance had saved her. Barely. "You think you're clever?" she hissed before I could say a word. Her voice was shredded, like something had clawed at her vocal cords from the inside. I didn't answer. She got off the car, came inches from my face. "They said it was poisoning. You did this. I cooked the meal. That's all." Her eyes flared. "You tried to kill me. You threw a plate of food at my face in front of your boyfriend. You mocked me. You humiliated me. Don't act surprised that dinner didn't end with dessert." She laughed, bitter and cruel. "You think this is over?" "I know it's not," I said. "But you should ask yourself one thing, Tiffany." "What?" "How many cameras do you think I installed in our house over the last 3 months?" Her face changed. Just a flicker, but I saw it. Fear. Real, sharp-edged fear. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, calculating. She didn't know. She really didn't know. And that was the best part. Because there weren't any. Not yet. But she wouldn't take that risk. She'd think twice about every lie, every move. For once in her life, she wasn't in control. I leaned in. "You want to play games? I can play harder. But you're already losing." Then I got in my car and drove off without another word. For the next few days, everything changed. Her friends stopped calling. Zayden disappeared. The news picked up the story, of course. Influencer dinner ends in chaos. Mysterious illness sends 5 to hospital. But no one said my name. I was a ghost in the narrative. The loyal husband. The background figure. That made it better. Tiffany didn't leave. She didn't file for divorce. She stayed in the house. But not with me. She slept in the guest room. She stopped cooking. Stopped talking. The silence was delicious. But the best part? The way she started checking her phone less. The way she glanced at the hallway camera I installed, real this time. The way she paused before saying anything in a room with me. She was unraveling. And I was just getting comfortable. But then something happened I didn't expect. She brought someone new into the house. Not a man. A lawyer. And that's when I realized Tiffany wasn't going to run. She was going to fight. And I had to decide, was I going to burn it all down? Or was I going to take everything she thought she could steal? Because I wasn't finished. Not even close. The lawyer's name was Grant. Sharp suit, sharper eyes. He walked into my house like he owned it, like he was already preparing to divide up the empire I built. Tiffany trailed behind him, playing the victim, her voice just raspy enough to remind him of what she'd been through. She was good at that, using her own mess as leverage. "Mr. Walker," Grant said, extending a hand I didn't take. "We're here to talk about a clean separation. Tiffany wants to be civil." I almost laughed. Civility died the night she threw pasta in my face and dared me to stay silent. "I bet she does," I said. "After everything." Tiffany stepped forward. "This doesn't have to get ugly, Evan. You've made your little statement. We all get it. But it's time to move on." Statement. That's what she called it. Like I'd written a tweet, not watched a room full of people collapse because they thought humiliating me was entertainment. Grant cleared his throat. "There's a proposal. 50-50 split. No alimony. She walks with the house. You keep the lake property." I looked at Tiffany. She didn't blink. She thought she had me cornered. "You know what?" I said calmly. "That sounds fair." Her eyes widened. Just a twitch. She didn't expect that. She expected me to argue. To fight. She thought she had power. "Just one thing," I added. "I want the files." Grant looked confused. "What files?" "The ones on her hard drive. The folder labeled studio. Password protected." Tiffany turned white. I smiled. "Oops. Guess your boyfriend didn't teach you how to hide things very well." Grant looked at her. Tiffany. She snapped. There's nothing in there. He's bluffing. I leaned back in the chair. Then give them to me. Grant adjusted his collar. We'll need to review the request. Take your time, I said, standing up. But let me be clear. If you try to screw me out of this house, those files become public. And I promise you, Tiffany, your little brand won't survive even 10 seconds of it. She was shaking now. Rage and panic fighting for dominance. You're blackmailing me, she hissed. No. I'm reminding you who you're dealing with. They left in silence. That night, she didn't sleep in the guest room. She left the house, packed a bag and vanished for 3 days. I didn't call, didn't care. I spent the time going through her abandoned laptop, backing up every photo, every video, every message she thought she deleted. I wasn't just going to win. I was going to erase her. By day 4, her lawyer called back. Mr. Walker, the house is yours. And Tiffany has decided to walk away from all claims. In exchange, she asks that you delete the contents of that folder. I already did. I lied. But I appreciate the gesture. Are we done here? I hung up without answering. The next day, she came back. Not with fire, but with fake tears. Evan, can we just talk? Please. I let her stand there in the doorway, mascara already smudging, her suitcase dragging behind her like a leash. She looked smaller than I remembered. Deflated. I didn't move. She stepped closer. I made mistakes. I know that. But we don't have to end like this. I stared at her. At the woman who once laughed at me with a plate in her hand and hate in her heart. No, I said quietly. You're right. We don't. She blinked, hopeful. We ended the second you let him touch you. Her face crumbled. I walked past her, out the door, into the morning light. I didn't look back. I had one more stop to make. One more name to cross off. Zayden. I found him exactly where I knew he'd be. Not in hiding. Not at a lawyer's office. Not curled up in guilt or fear. Zayden was at a rooftop bar in Midtown, laughing with 2 women who couldn't have been older than 22. Dressed in that same smug leather jacket he wore the night he sat at my table, drinking my wine, touching my wife under the table like I didn't exist. He didn't see me coming. I walked up behind him, slow and calm, and said, I hear spaghetti stains are hard to get out of leather. He turned, and for a second, he didn't recognize me. Then he did. His smile dropped like a stone. The women sensed it, how quickly the air around us shifted, and one of them touched his arm. Zay, who's this? He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. I could see the calculations in his head, who else was watching, what I was going to do, whether I was carrying something. I wasn't. I'm just here to talk, I said, smiling slightly. Man to man. You've had your fun, your thrill, your games. But I'm here to tell you something you need to understand. He stayed silent. I stepped in closer, lowered my voice. You thought she'd leave me for you. She didn't. You thought humiliating me made you the alpha. It didn't. You thought she loved you. I leaned even closer, just enough that he couldn't pretend not to listen. She never even respected you. The girls looked uncomfortable. One of them whispered something and grabbed her purse. Good. They should see what kind of man he really was. Zayden laughed, trying to regain footing. Look, man, she said you two were done. That you were boring. Controlling. She said a lot of things. And she'll say more. But here's the truth, Zayden. She used you because she could. Because you're too dumb to know the difference between power and access. His face flushed red. He stood up too fast, bumping the table. You're lucky I didn't press charges, I said, stepping back now. For what happened at that dinner. For what you both tried to pull. But let me be clear, stay out of my life. Stay out of my city. You're done here. He took a breath like he wanted to fight. But he didn't. Because he couldn't. Because for the first time, he was looking at a man with nothing to lose and everything already taken, and that's the most dangerous kind. I walked away. I didn't look back. Not even when one of the girls called after me. By the time I got home, the house felt different. Not lighter. Not warmer. Just mine again. The guest room was empty. Her suitcase gone. A note on the kitchen counter. You win. I'm done playing. T. No apology. No explanation. Just surrender. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just sat at the table where it all began, where the laughter once echoed, where the food hit my face, where they thought I'd break. I poured a glass of wine, not to celebrate, just to mark the end. Everything was quiet now, and in that silence, I finally understood something. She never broke me. She revealed me, and I wasn't the same man who stood there and took it. I was the one who ended it. The silence didn't last. A week after the final note, I got a message from Chelsea. Yeah, that Chelsea. Tiffany's little sidekick. The one who laughed the loudest that night. The one who once joked I looked like a sad accountant with anger issues right to my face. Her message was short. We need to talk. It's about Tiffany. Urgent. I stared at it for 10 minutes before replying. Not because I cared about her, but because urgent from a snake like Chelsea meant only one of two things. Someone was bleeding, or someone was about to. We met at a downtown cafe. Public enough to avoid drama. Quiet enough to hear the truth. She looked rough. No makeup, hoodie pulled over her dyed blonde hair, eyes darting behind her like she was afraid of shadows. Tiff spiraling, she said before I could sit down. She's saying crazy sh*t, threatening people. Talking about exposing you, about revenge. I sipped my coffee. There's nothing to expose. Chelsea leaned in. She says she has recordings. Audio. Messages you sent. Claims you confessed to the food thing. I met her eyes. I didn't. She doesn't care. She wants to make you look guilty. Said if she can't win, she'll burn everything around you just to feel the heat. Typical Tiffany. If she couldn't wear the crown, she'd poison the throne. What do you want from me? I asked. Chelsea hesitated, chewing her lip like she wasn't used to sincerity. I want to be done with her. I know where she keeps her backups. I can show you. I just don't want her dragging me down too. I paused, then nodded once. We left 10 minutes later, took her car. She drove fast, like she was trying to outrun guilt. The place? Some storage unit in a forgotten part of town. One of those facilities with flickering lights and broken cameras. She punched in the code, pulled up the roll-up door, and pointed to a black duffel bag in the corner. There. Bottom compartment. She always keeps the burner phone and the USB in there. That's her leverage. I walked over, unzipped it, and there it was. A flash drive. A locked phone. A small notebook full of her twisted little scribbles, half threats, half plans. She'd written down everything like it was a script for a role she still thought she'd play. You didn't see me, Chelsea muttered, stepping back. I was never here. She peeled away in her car, tires squealing. Back home, I plugged in the drive. Hours of audio recordings. Some real. Most edited. Fabricated. A version of me that didn't exist, violent, unhinged, desperate. She'd been building a case. Or at least the illusion of one. She thought she'd control the story. But now I had the script. I made copies. Stored them 3 places. Burned the original. And then, just for good measure, I sent her a message. You try to destroy me, I destroy your story. Choose peace, Tiffany. She didn't reply. 2 nights later, I got a call. Unknown number. I answered. Her voice was quiet. Shaken. You win, she whispered. I'm leaving the country. Where to? Doesn't matter. And just like that, she hung up. That was the last time I heard her voice. No apology. No remorse. Just flight. Funny how she always ran when she didn't get the last word. But I didn't need it anymore. Because I'd already said everything I needed to say. With silence, strategy, and the one thing she never expected me to have. Control. A month passed. Then another. No news of Tiffany. No surprise headlines. No secret footage leaked to the press. She had vanished as promised, leaving behind scorched bridges and empty wine bottles. The house grew quieter by the day. No clacking heels, no fake phone calls at midnight, no whispers behind locked doors. It wasn't peace, exactly. But it was something close. I got my sleep back. My appetite. My mind. I started going to the gym again, not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted to look in the mirror and not see a man broken by betrayal. And just when I thought it was finally over, when the wounds had turned to thin scars, I opened the mailbox and found a letter with no return address. Inside, a single photograph. Tiffany, on a yacht, drink in hand, wearing that same red dress from our 10th anniversary, the one I bought her in Italy. Her hair was longer, her face sharper, but the smile? Still poisonous. On the back of the photo, in her handwriting. You didn't bury me. You fed me. I stood in my kitchen, holding that photo like it'd weight. Like it could tip the world back into chaos. But it didn't. It made me laugh. Because that was her final move, a postcard from a lie. Proof she hadn't changed. That even across oceans, she still needed to be seen, still needed to win. Except she already lost. Because I didn't care anymore. That photo didn't bring rage. It brought clarity. She wasn't a monster. She was just empty. The kind of person who feeds on chaos because calm terrifies her. I used to think I could fix that. that I could love the venom out of her. But now I understood, you don't save snakes. You step back and let them slither out of your life. That night, I burned the photo. No ceremony, no emotion, just fire, heat, and silence. And in that silence, I thought about all the things I'd learned. How betrayal doesn't always come with a warning. How humiliation can be fuel. How silence can be sharper than revenge. And how, in the end, the worst thing you can do to someone like Tiffany is move on. So I did. I left the house a month later, sold it, bought a place near the coast. No memories, no stains, just clean walls and ocean air. And every once in a while, I still hear from people who knew her. She's in Ibiza. She's with some club owner in Dubai. She got a nose job. Again, I smile, because while she's still chasing something she'll never catch, I finally caught something real. Myself. And if you're reading this, if you've ever been humiliated, broken, dragged through betrayal and made to feel like nothing, remember this. They only laugh when they think you're done, but they never see what comes after. And that is the part they should fear most. It ended not with a scream, not with another slammed door or final insult. It ended quietly. One morning, I stood in front of the mirror, same eyes, same face, but I barely recognized the man looking back. Not because I was broken, because I was rebuilt. Stronger in the places she tried to hollow out. Colder in the ways that kept me alive. There was no announcement. No moment of dramatic closure. Just a deep breath. A full one. And a strange, simple thought. I'm free. Not just from her. From everything she tried to plant inside me, doubt, self-hate, dependence. That weight she wrapped around my neck every time she smiled and said I wasn't enough. Gone. I started walking again. Really walking. Through life. Through my own story. Without dragging her shadow behind me. She became a ghost. A lesson. A scar I stopped tracing with my fingers. And for the first time in years, I stopped checking who was watching me. Because I didn't need to prove anything anymore. Some people asked why I never went public with what she did. Why I didn't expose her. Ruin her. I tell them the truth. She's already ruined. You don't need to destroy what's hollow. You just stop feeding it. And if you've been there, if someone's ever tried to break you and make you thank them for it, listen closely. You don't owe them pain. You don't owe them forgiveness. You owe yourself your life back. Take it, piece by piece. Breathe again. Stand up straight. And the next time someone tries to throw a plate in your face while the world laughs, let them. Then build a kingdom on the ashes of their applause. Because survival isn't loud. It's quiet. It's brutal. It's earned. And now, I'm finally home. You ever watch your whole life collapse while the person who caused it looks you dead in the eye and smiles? That was my wife, Brittany. The same woman I married 12 years ago. The same woman I built a home with. The same woman who, without a shred of hesitation, burned everything we had to the ground. It started in the courtroom. I was standing there in front of a judge, fighting for the right to see my own damn kids, while Brittany stood there beside her lawyer, crocodile tears in her eyes, telling the court I was a liar, a cheater, emotionally abusive. All of it, a complete fabrication. She told them I'd been sleeping around, that I'd snuck out at night, that she had proof. Funny thing? There was no proof. Because none of it ever happened. I didn't cheat. I didn't touch another woman. I didn't even flirt. But none of that mattered. In this world, when a woman cries, people listen. Especially when you're a man like me, Daniel Miller, 41, blue-collar, self-built. You're not the kind of guy they make excuses for. You're the guy they throw under the bus. And God, she knew exactly how to do it. Brittany painted a picture so vivid, so damn perfect, she could have won an Oscar. He disappeared on weekends, she sobbed. I found perfume on his clothes. Lies. All of it. She knew what she was doing. I lost everything that day. My kids, Ethan and Lily. My house. My job. My name. It was like someone took a sledgehammer to my life and just kept swinging. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part? She was cheating the whole damn time. While she was in court accusing me, she was sneaking off with a guy named Travis, a greasy, smug, trust fund parasite with a Porsche and a podcast. I found out months later, but we'll get to that. Back then, all I had was pain. The kind of pain that doesn't just sit in your chest, it carves into it. I was sleeping on my buddy Cole's couch, jobless, broke, and too numb to even cry. The whispers started coming through mutual friends. Brittany's been acting different lately. She's been seen out at that new rooftop bar in Midtown, not alone. I brushed it off. I wanted to believe she was just hurting, just trying to move on. But then came the text from an unknown number. Thought you should know. Your wife's been with Travis for over a year. She used you. You didn't deserve that. Check her IG. Look at the private story highlights. My hands were trembling when I opened Instagram. Brittany had blocked me, of course, but a friend let me see her account. She had one of those fake private highlight albums, only for close friends. There they were. Photos. Videos. Her straddling Travis in a pool in Tulum. Her whispering in his ear at a Halloween party, wearing the same outfit I bought her last year. Her sitting on his lap in a restaurant, giggling like a teenager. And this was while she was telling the judge I was unfaithful. My stomach turned. Everything made sense. Her fake tears. Her sudden hatred. Her obsession with my phone. She wasn't afraid I'd cheat, she was terrified I'd catch her. And yet, I was the one destroyed. No one believed me. Not the courts. Not my own parents. Not even my best friend at first. They all thought, well, she seems sincere, and Daniel's been distant lately. Maybe there's some truth to it. But I stayed silent. I didn't beg. I didn't plead. I just rebuilt. Quietly. One brick at a time. Got a job at a mechanic shop in Jersey. Saved every penny. Rented a crappy apartment. Took parenting classes. Filed appeal after appeal to see my kids. And then, a year later, lightning struck. I bought a lottery ticket at a gas station on a random Tuesday. Didn't think twice. It was the kind you scratch and toss. Until I scratched it. $5 million. It felt like a joke. I reread it 5 times. Called the hotline. Verified it at the store. It was real. I didn't tell a soul. Not a single one. I cashed it in through a trust. Hired a lawyer. Disappeared from social media. Changed my number. I was finally free, or so I thought. Because 1 week later, guess who showed up? Brittany. Hair done. Tight dress. That snake smile I used to find charming before I realized it meant destruction. She didn't say hello. Didn't ask how I was. She said, we need to talk about alimony. And that's when I knew it. It was time to turn the tables. I looked at her, standing there like nothing ever happened. Like she hadn't dragged me through the mud, stolen my kids, my dignity, my name. And now, suddenly, she was sweet-talking again, like we were just 2 grown-ups trying to sort out a misunderstanding. I let her talk. That's the thing about people like Brittany. They love the sound of their own voice. She sat across from me at the coffee shop I used to take her to, wearing a red blazer I remembered buying for our anniversary 5 years back. Probably wore it just to mess with me. She stirred her cappuccino like this was a casual meetup. So, I heard about the lottery, she said, with a smile that made my skin crawl. I guess news travels fast, I replied, calm. She blinked, surprised I wasn't stuttering or fuming. I mean, she leaned in. We were married 12 years. That kind of money. Well, the court might see it as marital property. I didn't even blink. We've been divorced for over a year. She sipped her drink. Still, you wouldn't want this to go to trial. Judges hate mess. I wanted to laugh. After what she did, she was warning me about mess? That moment, sitting across from her, watching her lie with that same smug, snake-like confidence, it was like reliving the courtroom all over again. Except now, I wasn't the one on the floor. She just didn't know it yet. I excused myself from the table, tossed a 20 on the check, and walked out without another word. She called after me, but I didn't turn around. Because I had a plan. And I wasn't going to waste a second explaining it to someone who once tried to bury me. I called my lawyer the next morning. Told him everything. And we got to work. See, here's what Brittany didn't know. I had recordings. Messages. Witnesses. People who saw her with Travis while we were still married. She thought she'd won. Thought I'd rolled over and accepted my fate. But I had spent that year quietly collecting receipts. There was a guy named Jeremy who worked security at the hotel she used for her little staycations. He owed me a favor. He handed me footage of her checking in, under her maiden name, with Travis. My friend Sarah, a bartender at that rooftop lounge, she had audio of Brittany bragging about ruining her loser ex-husband while hanging off Travis's lap. I even found an email Brittany forgot to delete from our shared drive, an old draft she never sent to her lawyer, outlining the entire setup. The fake perfume on my clothes. The stage text she sent to herself from a burner number. It was all there. The court date came faster than I expected. She walked in dressed like she was going to brunch, Travis behind her in a blazer 2 sizes too tight. I didn't say a word. Let my lawyer do the talking. He laid it all out. The false accusations. The fabricated evidence. The ongoing affair. The plan to use my kids as leverage. Brittany's face slowly morphed from smug to pale. Travis kept glancing toward the exit like he was thinking about bolting. Then my lawyer dropped the final bomb, a motion to reverse custody, citing malicious parental alienation and fraud. The judge sat back in his chair and exhaled like he just watched an action movie. This, he said, flipping through the pages, is some of the most egregious manipulation I've seen in 20 years. Brittany tried to speak, tried to cry, but this time, no one bought it. Not the judge, not the attorneys, not even Travis. He actually stood up and whispered to his lawyer, "I'm done." Coward left her right there, mid-hearing. The judge ruled in my favor. Full custody of Ethan and Lily, retroactive damages, and a hard no on Brittany's alimony claim. She was ordered to pay me legal fees. I wish I could tell you I felt triumphant, that I smiled when she broke down and begged me in the hallway afterward. But all I felt was empty. She wasn't worth the fight, the pain, or even the victory. What mattered was my kids, my name, my life, finally mine again. Later that night, I sat in my apartment, well, my new house now, the one Brittany would never set foot in, and watched old videos of Ethan's 6th birthday. The one I missed because Brittany said he wasn't feeling well. He looked just fine in that video. I didn't cry. I'd done enough of that. I just sat there, watching, rebuilding inside. Not just because I had my kids back, but because I knew now. I knew who she really was, what she was capable of, and I knew one more thing. This story wasn't over yet. 2 weeks after the court hearing, I was sitting in my new kitchen, pouring cereal for Ethan while Lily braided her doll's hair at the table. The house was quiet, peaceful. It didn't feel real yet, having them here, laughing, calling me Dad, without tension in their voices. For the first time in years, I wasn't walking on eggshells. I wasn't being watched. I wasn't being lied to with every word out of someone's mouth. But Brittany couldn't let go. She started texting me again. First, it was subtle. Ethan forgot his blue hoodie at my place. You want me to drop it off? Then, just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. I know I messed up. We were both hurting. Let's be civil. Then the mask fell. You think you're some kind of hero? Don't forget, I made you. No one would have looked twice at you if it wasn't for me. That one made me laugh. She didn't make me. She destroyed me. There's a difference. Still, something in me was curious. I'm not proud of it, but I replied, "You need something, Brittany?" Her answer came fast. "I want to talk. One real conversation. No lawyers. Just you and me." The part of me that still had scars said, "Don't do it. Don't give her the satisfaction." But the part that lived through a year of silence, rage, and humiliation wanted to look her in the eye and watch her break. So I agreed. We met in the park. Neutral territory. Middle of the day. Public enough she couldn't pull anything. She showed up dressed like she was going to church, white blouse, that fake soft smile she always used when she needed something. I didn't hug her. Didn't even stand when she sat down. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, brushing her hair behind her ear like it was still 2014. I waited. "I just wanted to say I regret how everything went down." "You regret lying about me cheating? Or stealing my kids? Or trying to take money you had no right to?" She flinched. "I was angry," she said. "I thought you were hiding something. You were always working late, pulling away." "I was working late because we were behind on the mortgage," I snapped. "Because I was covering your spending while you were blowing Travis in a hotel room downtown." She went red. "You don't know what it was like," she hissed. "Being in a marriage where I felt invisible. You never told me I was beautiful anymore. Never took me out. Never made me feel special." I leaned in. "You mean the way Travis made you feel?" "Yeah, I saw the videos." She froze, swallowed hard. "You had someone filming me?" "No, you had someone filming you. You were too drunk to notice your own friend was recording half those nights and sending them to her boyfriend." "Who sent them to me?" Silence. She looked at her hands like they'd betrayed her. Then she switched gears. "We were supposed to build a life together, Danny. You don't just throw away 12 years. "You did," I said. "The second you stepped into that hotel room, you torched everything. And when you went to court and lied, when you looked our kids in the eye and told them Daddy didn't love them, that's when you buried it." She sniffled. No tears came. "Do you love me at all anymore?" she whispered. And for a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. But then I remembered the empty apartment, the job I lost, the birthdays I missed, the way Ethan looked at me like a stranger, the panic attacks, the sleeping pills, the numb mornings. "No," I said flatly. "I don't love you. I don't even know who you are. She nodded, slow. The performance was ending. She knew the scene was over. But then she said something that made my blood run cold. You should be careful. I tilted my head. What's that supposed to mean? She smiled, stood up, brushed invisible dust off her jeans. You humiliated me in court, Danny. Publicly. That doesn't just go away. You think Travis was the only one? You think I didn't learn from him? I stood up too. She stepped back slightly. You threatening me? No, she said. Just letting you know. I've made friends. And not everyone plays by the rules. And just like that, she walked away. I didn't follow. But that night, I changed the locks. Installed cameras. Called my lawyer. Because Brittany had stopped being unpredictable. Now she was dangerous. A week passed. No texts. No calls. Just silence. It was worse than noise. Brittany wasn't the type to give up. When she went quiet, it meant she was planning something. She was like a storm you couldn't see, but you could feel in your bones. Then it came. A knock on the door at 7 a.m. Not the police. Child Protective Services. 2 agents. Polite, professional, but cold. Mr. Miller, we've received an anonymous report that your children are living in an unsafe environment. My stomach dropped. What the hell are you talking about? They asked to come in. I had nothing to hide, so I let them. Ethan was still in bed. Lily was watching cartoons with cereal on her lap. The house was clean. No drugs. No alcohol. No weapons. Nothing that even hinted at danger. But they walked through like they expected to find a meth lab behind the couch cushions. I followed them into the kitchen, trying to stay calm. Can you tell me what the accusation was? Anonymous report stated that you've been drinking excessively around the children, have left them alone overnight, and used physical force. My blood started to boil. That's a damn lie. I haven't had a drink in over 2 years, and I've never laid a hand on my kids. They nodded, wrote notes, asked more questions. Left with, we'll be in touch. I sat on the floor for 15 minutes after they left. Just sat there, head in my hands. I knew exactly who made that call. Brittany, trying to twist the knife one last time. But this time, I was ready. I sent the footage from my security cam straight to my lawyer, videos showing me cooking dinner, helping Lily with homework, watching movies with Ethan. Date stamped, time stamped, unedited. I also had letters from the kids' school counselor saying both were adjusting well and visibly happier than before. My lawyer got ahead of it before anything could escalate. But it wasn't just about clearing my name anymore. Now I knew Brittany wasn't just bitter. She was dangerous, calculating, and unhinged. And she wasn't done. 3 nights later, I saw Travis again. At the grocery store, of all places. Wearing sweatpants and aviators like he was dodging paparazzi. He looked worse than last time, scruffy, thin, twitchy. Probably hopped up on something. He saw me in the frozen aisle and froze himself. Then, believe it or not, he walked up to me. You think you won, he said, his voice low and jittery. But you don't know Brittany. I know enough. He gave this broken little chuckle. Shook his head. She's trying to ruin me too now. Says I owe her money. Says I used her. You did, I said, but that's between you two. He stepped closer. She's not done with you, man. She talks about you more than anyone. She's obsessed. She says she's going to get everything back one way or another. Then he paused, leaned in, and whispered something that made my stomach twist. She told me she's pregnant. Said it's mine, but I'm not so sure. I stared at him. You telling me this because you want help, or because you want to drag me into your mess? She said if I don't come back to her, she'll tell the court I abused her. She said she already drafted statements. She knows how to make people believe it. There it was again. That weapon she used so well, the lie. False accusations. The oldest play in her book. And now she was trying it on him, too. I walked away. I didn't know Travis a damn thing. Let him drown in the same poison he helped pour. But I knew I couldn't just wait around anymore. I had to go on offense. So I filed a restraining order. Not just for me, but for the kids. I documented every message, every visit, every veiled threat. My lawyer took it to the judge, and this time, with everything we had already proven, it went through fast. Brittany was legally blocked from contacting me or the kids without court supervision. When she got the news, she went ballistic. Screamed in the courthouse lobby. Had to be escorted out. Said I was stealing her life. No, Brittany. You gave it away. Traded it for a warm lap, a few hotel keys, and a handful of lies. But this time, you weren't getting it back. Not from me. Not from our kids. Not ever. The next month was the first time in years I could actually breathe. Waking up and hearing Lily giggle in the living room while Ethan poured his own cereal, those were the kinds of mornings I used to dream about when I was sleeping on that ratty couch in Cole's apartment, wondering if I'd ever get my life back. And now, here it was. My house. My peace. My kids. But peace, I've learned, never lasts long when you've got a hurricane in human form just outside the walls. Because Brittany didn't stay quiet for long. She filed an emergency motion, claimed she was having emotional distress from being separated from the children, that she feared for their mental health in my custody, that I was turning them against her. The same woman who hadn't seen them in over a month, who sent a bogus CPS report, was now crying in front of another judge, trying to rewrite reality. Luckily, the judge wasn't born yesterday. He read the reports, saw the restraining order, the threats, the timeline. Motion denied. I thought that would be it. The final gasp of a manipulative woman trying to save face. I was wrong. 2 days later, I came home from work and the front door was open. I stood on the porch for 5 full seconds, just staring at it. Ethan and Lily were at their grandma's, thank God. I walked inside slow, every hair on my neck standing. Nothing was stolen. Nothing was broken. But someone had been there. I could feel it. And when I walked into the kitchen, I found it. A photo of me and the kids at the zoo, taken last week. I didn't take it. We were smiling, cotton candy in hand, unaware of anyone watching. On the back of the photo was a note in red ink. Enjoy your time, Danny. It doesn't last. I didn't need a signature to know who it was from. I changed the locks again, got a motion sensor for the backyard, bought a bat and kept it next to the bed. And that night, for the first time in months, I didn't sleep. I kept hearing things, imagining shadows, listening for footsteps. That woman wasn't just crazy. She was obsessed. The next day, I filed a police report, showed them the photo, the note, the restraining order. But you know how it goes. Unless she breaks in again or physically harms me, there's not much we can do, sir. So I did what I had to. I put cameras inside the house, upgraded my alarm system, even taught Ethan and Lily a safe word in case anyone tried to pick them up from school. I hated living like that, constantly on edge, looking over my shoulder, expecting her to slither out of the dark at any second. But I had no choice. She'd lost the battle in court, and now she was waging war in the shadows. Then, a week later, Travis reached out again, through a burner number. Need to talk. Urgent. About Brittany. I didn't want to. Didn't care. But something in my gut told me this wasn't about drama anymore. We met at a diner just off the freeway. He looked worse than before. I sunken, shaking hands, like a man who hadn't slept in days. She's spiraling, he said. Said if she can't have the kids, no one will. What the hell does that mean? I asked. She's drinking again. Mixing pills. Said she already wrote something up. A letter. If anything happens to her, it'll make you look guilty. I stared at him. You're telling me she's setting up her own death to frame me? He nodded. She told me she's going to make it look like you pushed her over the edge. That she was the victim the whole time. That it'll be her final truth. Her words. I leaned back, processing the weight of that. She's sick, I muttered. She's actually sick. Travis looked like he was about to cry. I know I helped her hurt you. I didn't know she was capable of this. I believed him. Not because I trusted him, but because the fear in his voice was real. I called my lawyer again, sent a written statement, notified the court, filed for full protective custody. I wasn't going to wait for Brittany to write her final act. I was going to make sure the curtain closed before she could ever step on stage again. The court date for the full protective custody came faster than expected. It wasn't just about restraining orders anymore. This was about permanently severing Brittany's ability to interfere in our lives. I walked into that courtroom more prepared than I'd ever been for anything in my life. My lawyer had built a wall of evidence so high even Brittany's silver tongue couldn't climb it. Witnesses, CPS documentation, security footage, voicemails, screenshots. And now, with Travis's written affidavit, signed and notarized, confirming her threats and behavior, we had her cornered. She showed up late. Sunglasses, black dress, all theatrics, not mourning, staging. She looked around like she was the star of a show that no one came to watch. When the judge read aloud Travis's statement and Brittany realized what he'd done, her mouth dropped open. Her entire performance fell apart like tissue paper in a storm. She stood up, shaking. He's lying. He's a junkie. He's obsessed with me. This is slander. The judge cut her off. Ms. Miller, sit down or I'll hold you in contempt. She sat, quiet for once, breathing hard. I didn't say a word that day. I didn't need to. My silence spoke louder than any defense she could conjure. By the end of the hearing, the judge ruled in my favor. Full custody. No contact. Supervised visitation only, pending psychiatric evaluation. It was over. 12 years of marriage. 3 years of chaos. And now, finally, I could close the door. But of course, Brittany wasn't done. 2 days after the ruling, I got an email from a burner account. No subject. Just one sentence. You took everything. I hope it was worth it. Then an attachment. A video. At first, I didn't open it. Something in me didn't want to give her that satisfaction. But eventually, curiosity won. I clicked. It was footage from inside our old bedroom. From before the divorce. A camera must have been hidden, probably in one of those little alarm clocks she always bought. It showed me sitting on the edge of the bed, crying, whispering to myself, clutching a framed photo of Ethan and Lily. It was one of the lowest nights of my life. And somehow, she'd kept it. Saved it. Waiting for this moment to throw it in my face. There was no point to it. No leverage. Just cruelty. Just a reminder of how broken I'd been and how much she'd enjoyed watching it. I closed the laptop. And that was when it hit me. She wasn't trying to win anymore. She wasn't even trying to fight. She wanted me to feel what she felt. Weak, alone, humiliated. But I wasn't that man on the screen anymore. I was done playing her games. I blocked the email, filed it as evidence, and went outside where Ethan and Lily were playing catch. Ethan called to me. I tossed the ball back. That's where I lived now in this moment. In their laughter. In this life I rebuilt from ash. Weeks went by. Then one morning, as I was drinking coffee on the porch, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was a hospital. Brittany had overdosed. Pills and vodka. They found her unconscious in her apartment. No suicide note. No will. Just an empty bottle and a history of destruction. She survived. But barely. Travis was the one who called the ambulance. He'd stopped by to return some of her things, heard the noise inside, and kicked the door in. The hospital said she was stable but would need serious psychiatric help. They asked me if I wanted to visit. If I wanted to be listed as emergency contact. If I wanted to notify the kids. I said no. No more second chances. No more guilt. I was done saving someone who only knew how to burn bridges. But I did go outside and sit with Ethan and Lily. Told them their mom was sick and needed help. Told them it wasn't their fault. Told them they were safe. And loved. Because they deserved truth, not the poison Brittany passed off as love. And for the first time in a long time, I believed my own words. I wasn't broken anymore. I wasn't lost. I wasn't afraid. I was free. 3 months passed. Life settled into something that almost resembled normal. Ethan made the soccer team. Lily started piano lessons. I got promoted at work, now managing the shop instead of just wrenching under the hood. Our home was stable, safe, ours. The court still required monthly updates from Brittany's psychiatric facility. She was alive, functioning, on medication, attending therapy, but still not well. Her doctor submitted a request for monitored video visitation with the kids. Just 10 minutes. Supervised. Structured. Ethan didn't want to. Lily hesitated, then shook her head. I didn't push. I just documented their response and told the court no. Their decision mattered more than anyone's. Still, part of me wondered if she'd ever stop. If she'd ever get help, not for my sake, not even for the kids, but for herself. Then something happened I didn't expect. A letter arrived. No return address. Just my name written in shaky pen. I opened it in the garage. Couldn't risk the kids seeing it. Inside was a folded piece of notebook paper, no envelope. The handwriting was messy, uneven. I recognized it instantly. It was Brittany. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even forgive myself. I thought I was punishing you, but I was tearing myself apart. I blamed you for things I created. I let my bitterness rot me. The truth is, I didn't deserve you. Or our kids. I see that now. I hope one day they can hear it from me. Not the way I said it in court. Not in lies. But like this. Quiet. Real. I loved you once. I think. But I hated myself more. I'm sorry. Brittany. I read it twice. 3 times. Then I folded it, placed it back in the envelope, and locked it in my desk drawer. Not because I forgave her. Not because I wanted to preserve it. But because one day, maybe Ethan or Lily would ask questions. and I'd rather have something real to show them, even if it came far too late. Still, I didn't respond. Some things didn't need a reply. The therapist I'd been seeing throughout all this, a quiet, thoughtful guy named Dr. Langston, once told me something that stuck. Closure doesn't come from others. It comes when you stop bleeding from a wound you no longer try to reopen. And he was right. I stopped bleeding the day I chose to stop fighting ghosts. The day I realized Brittany was never going to be the woman I thought I married, and that wasn't my fault. I didn't fail as a husband. I didn't deserve the betrayal. I didn't deserve to be accused of something I never did, to lose my kids, my house, my dignity. But I also didn't deserve to live the rest of my life angry. So I let it go. I rebuilt not for revenge, but for me. One evening, Ethan came into the kitchen holding a school flyer. "Dad, they're doing a father-son camping weekend next month. You want to go?" He didn't know it, but those words hit deeper than anything Brittany had ever said in 12 years. "Yeah," I said, smiling. "Yeah, I'd like that." We packed our gear the next morning, made lists, built a playlist. Lily helped us choose snacks. It was stupid and beautiful and exactly what life was supposed to be. And as I stood in the doorway that night, watching them brush their teeth and argue over who would get the top bunk during the trip, I realized something. I didn't just survive Brittany. I won. Not the lottery. Not the court case. Not the twisted game she tried to play. But life. I won my life back. And there's not a damn thing she can do to take it again. The camping trip was perfect. Not because everything went smoothly, because it didn't. Ethan forgot the tent poles. I burned the hot dogs. Lily called us 3 times just to ask where her stuffed panda was. But that's what made it real. We laughed through it. Made do. Told ghost stories by a fire that wouldn't stay lit. Ethan fell asleep with his head on my shoulder under a sky so full of stars it made me forget what the word broken even meant. That night, I lay awake in my sleeping bag, staring up through the mesh of the tent, listening to the wind move through the trees. I thought about everything that had happened. Every lie. Every courtroom. Every time Brittany tried to twist the truth until it snapped. Every second I'd spent questioning myself, asking how the hell I ended up here. And then I realized I wasn't there anymore. I was here. With my son beside me, my daughter safe at home, and a future wide open for once. Brittany still existed somewhere out there. Her chaos would keep moving, finding new places to infest. But I was done being her battleground. I was done giving her rent-free space in my head. I'd already paid too much. So here's what I learned, what I'd tell any man out there living the nightmare I did. They will try to destroy you. They'll lie, twist, manipulate, cry in courtrooms and smile while they take everything. And when they realize you survived, they'll come for what's left. Let them. Let them take the lies. Let them keep the fake stories. Let them have the broken pieces they tried to throw at your feet. Because what they'll never understand is that the moment you choose peace over revenge, the moment you let go of proving yourself, the moment you stop chasing justice from the unjust, you win. Not loud, not with fireworks, but quietly, fully, and forever. So if you're reading this, some guy with his back against the wall, losing sleep, being painted as the villain in someone else's script, listen to me. Keep going. Keep rebuilding. Stay silent when they expect you to scream. Stack your bricks. Protect your soul. And when they try to come back, because they always do, don't answer. You're not theirs anymore. You're you again. And nothing in this world is more powerful than a man who remembers who the hell he is. Who invited the poorest of the poor. That voice. I hadn't heard it in years, but I'd know it anywhere. It stabbed through the laughter like a knife, slicing the room in half. I turned slowly, and there she was, Heather, my ex-wife, the woman who left me with a note that said, "I deserve someone successful." Now she stood in front of me, in a blood-red dress that screamed for attention, with her hand resting on some guy's chest like a trophy she hadn't earned. The people around her were laughing, not because it was funny, but because she still knew how to manipulate a room. That smug, poisonous smile was exactly the same as the day she walked out of my life. I smiled back, calm, unshaken, because I'd been waiting for this moment. And right on cue, the ballroom doors opened. My assistant walked in, heels sharp, voice sharper. "Sir, your private jet is ready. The team in San Francisco is waiting." Silence. Complete, brutal silence. Wine glasses froze in midair. Jaws dropped. Every smirk on every face evaporated. And Heather looked like she'd just swallowed glass. You could almost hear the sound of her pride cracking. I walked past her slowly, savoring every second. But if you think this is a story about a man who got rich and got even, you're only half right. Because what came before this, the betrayal, the lies, the humiliation, that's what forged me. Let me take you back. Back to the night she left me. Back to when I was still nothing. Back to when her betrayal nearly destroyed me and unknowingly made me unstoppable. You ready? Because I promise you, this story doesn't end with a jet. It ends with 155 missed calls and a broken woman begging for the life she threw away. She left while I was away on a business trip. 3 days in Atlanta. That's all it was supposed to be. I was pitching to a small investor group, desperate to keep the dream alive. We were down to our last $1,000, and I hadn't paid rent in 2 months. The startup was hanging by a thread, and I thought if I could just close one deal, we'd survive. That night, after a long day of rejection and hopeful maybes, I opened my laptop in the hotel room. I had a message waiting. It wasn't long. No emotion. No punctuation. I'm leaving. I found someone better. Don't come home. Just like that. No phone call. No explanation. No apology. She didn't even sign her name. I sat there staring at the screen, blinking, waiting for it to change, waiting for the punchline, for the joke to make sense. It never did. I called her. No answer. I called again. Then again. Then again. Nothing. When I got back to our apartment, half the furniture was gone. Her clothes, gone. Jewelry box, gone. Even my laptop charger was gone. But she left the framed photo of our wedding on the kitchen table, face down. Next to it, my wedding ring. And a receipt. A hotel room. 2 nights. Downtown. Booked under her name. I looked it up. It was the same weekend I stayed late working overnight shifts trying to keep our code base from collapsing. She was with him then. Whoever he was. I found his cologne on one of the throw pillows. A scent I'd never worn. I didn't need to imagine what happened on that couch. The stains were still there. It was more than betrayal. It was contempt. She didn't just leave me. She abandoned me like I was some failed bet. A scratch-off ticket that didn't hit. That week, I disappeared. I shut off my phone. Deleted social media. Moved into a single-room sublet with no kitchen. I lived off ramen and coffee and pure rage. Rage at her. Rage at myself. Rage at the world for letting people like her win. But I wasn't going to stay down. I got to work. Relentlessly. Obsessively. While she flaunted her new boyfriend online. A guy with a leased car and a motivational quote in his bio. I taught myself how to scale a backend server from scratch. I built product after product. Failed. Launched again. Failed harder. But every failure sharpened me. Burned away the weakness she always said defined me. You'll never be successful, she once told me. You're too soft. Too nice. Too hopeful. The world eats people like you. She was right about one thing. The world does eat people like me. Unless we learn to bite back. I found an investor 6 months later. Then another. Then one day, I woke up, checked my bank account, and for the first time in my life, there were more zeros than I could count without blinking. The business took off like a rocket. But I never reached out to her. Not once. I let her think she'd won. I let her live her little fantasy. Weekend brunches. Insta stories with fake smiles. Vacations paid with his money. A new car. A new life. She thought I was gone. Until that reunion. Until that ballroom. Until the moment my assistant called me sir and told me my private jet was waiting. I didn't need to scream. Or brag. Or throw it in her face. All I had to do was walk away. And let her choke on everything she gave up. But the story doesn't end there. Because when I got back to the jet, I turned my phone on for the first time in hours. 155 missed calls. From her. And one voicemail. A shaky voice. Please. I didn't know. I messed up. Just call me. Please. I didn't listen to the others. I didn't need to. The past was behind me. But the revenge? Oh, that was just getting started. She kept calling for days. Different numbers. Blocked once. Even had her sister message me on Instagram saying Heather wasn't doing well and needed closure. Closure? She slammed the door in my face and set the house on fire on her way out. Now she wanted closure? I ignored it. Until one day, I didn't. I was in New York, wrapping up a deal, when my assistant handed me an envelope. This came through the office, she said, looking confused. Hand-delivered. Inside was a letter. Handwritten. The loops in the letters were familiar. Heather's handwriting, slightly slanted, dramatic, like she was always performing, even on paper. I know I don't deserve this. But please hear me out. You were always the better person. I see that now. Greg. Greg ruined me. He drained me, lied to me, cheated on me with my friend. I have nothing. I made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. I think about you every day. I wish I could go back. I wish I never left. It ended with a number and the words, "If you ever want to talk, please." I burned the letter. Not metaphorically. I literally lit it on fire in the hotel sink and watched it curl and blacken until it turned to ash. Then I turned on the tap and washed her words away. But that wasn't the end of it. 2 weeks later, I saw her. By accident. Or maybe not. I was in LA, walking out of a restaurant with two venture guys when I heard someone shout my name. I turned, and there she was. Heather. But not the Heather I remembered. Her makeup was smeared. Her dress was cheap and creased. Her heels were worn down. And her eyes, those once deadly, fire-filled eyes, were hollow. "I've been trying to reach you," she said breathlessly, stepping toward me. One of the VCs asked, "Friend of yours?" Something like that. I replied, cool as ice. She tried to smile, but it cracked. "Can we just talk? 5 minutes. Please." I looked at her. Not with hate. Not with love. With clarity. "You had everything," I said softly. "Not just what I was building. You had my loyalty. My future. My respect. You left because you wanted someone finished. Not someone growing. But guess what?" I leaned in, close enough for only her to hear. "Now I'm finished. And you're done." She stood there, stunned, speechless. "I work nights now," she muttered, almost defensively. I'm not doing great." I nodded. "Yeah, I know." And I walked away. The best revenge is not a yacht. Not a jet. Not even the money. It's peace. It's silence. It's the fact that she wakes up every morning knowing she bet against the wrong man. And lost everything. But don't worry, there's more. Because I thought the story was over. I thought the chapter was closed. Until I saw her name again. This time, not in a letter, but in a lawsuit. Turns out, Heather wanted a piece of the pie she didn't bake. Turns out, she never really left. She was waiting, scheming, and what she tried next. That was the final straw. The envelope was thick, official, gold-trimmed, even. The kind of paper meant to intimidate. I opened it casually, sitting in my office, 15 floors above downtown. My assistant had already flagged it as interesting. And she was right. Inside, a formal letter from a law firm representing, guess who? Heather Lynn Evans. My ex-wife. Apparently, she was filing a claim against me. On what grounds? Unfair enrichment during the marriage period and contribution to early business development. I laughed out loud. Actually laughed. She had contributed exactly 3 things during that time. Insults, debts, and dirty laundry. She wasn't there during the endless 2 a.m. breakdowns. She wasn't there when I maxed out 3 credit cards just to keep the server alive. She was out clubbing with Greg while I was sleeping on an air mattress in a roach-infested studio. But now she wanted a cut? It was bold. I'll give her that. Delusional, but bold. I called my lawyer. Rob, a shark in human skin. He read it silently, then said, "She's bluffing. Let me handle this. But just a heads up, she's trying to get under your skin." "She won't," I said. But the truth is, she already had. Not because of the money. I had more than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. It was the principle. She left me in the dirt, laughed at me in public, tried to humiliate me in front of everyone. Now, she wanted to pretend she'd helped build my life? No. So we fought back. Not loudly. Not dramatically. We sent a single letter back, 4 lines. No assets were shared. No contributions were made. Discovery is welcome. Good luck proving otherwise. And that was it. She didn't respond. Not at first. But I knew Heather. She never quits while she's ahead. Mostly because she never knows when she's lost. A few days later, I saw her name trending on Facebook. Photos from a small diner in some dusty corner of Nevada. Her in a faded apron, taking orders from a table of high school kids. Someone had posted a caption. "Didn't this woman used to be, like, rich?" Comments flooded in. Some recognized her. Some mocked her. Some defended her. But one thing was clear. Her fall from grace was public, and it was ugly. I didn't repost. I didn't comment. I just watched. And I'll admit it, I felt something. Not joy. Not satisfaction. Pity. But even that was short-lived. Because a week later, my phone rang. Blocked number. I never answer those. But something made me tap, accept. It was her. Her voice was shaky. Weaker. Slower. She spoke like a person who had nothing left to lose. Please, just listen. I didn't mean for things to go this far. I said nothing. I miss who we were. I was stupid. I thought I was trading up, but he hit me. Greg. He ruined everything. He left me with debt. With bruises. I'm alone. Still, I said nothing. I see you everywhere now. On magazines. Podcasts. Billboards. I can't escape you. And I'm glad. I really am. I waited a beat. Then answered. You told me once I'd never be successful. I didn't mean it, she whispered. Yes, you did, I replied. And you were right. Back then, I wasn't. But you gave me the pain I needed to become something more. You broke me. And I'm grateful for that. Silence. Then a soft, pathetic, do you think we could meet? Just talk. No. I hung up. And this time, it felt final. Not because I'd won. Not because she'd lost. But because I finally understood something I hadn't before. Sometimes, the worst thing that ever happens to you is the best thing that ever happens to you. And sometimes, the person who tries to bury you is the one who plants you. A month passed. I didn't hear from her again. No calls. No letters. No surprise visits. For a while, I thought maybe that was it. Maybe she'd finally understood that the chapter was closed. That I wasn't her lifeline anymore. That I wasn't going to save her from the mess she created. Until I got a call from my old high school friend, Darren. Dude, he said, voice low, almost apologetic. You're not going to believe this. What? Heather's working at that little dive bar out near 85th. You know, the one with the busted neon sign and sticky floors. I said nothing. She's been telling people you ruined her life. That you manipulated her. Left her with nothing. I laughed once. Quietly. That's rich. Oh, it gets better, he said. She said you owe her. That she was with you when you were nobody, and that she sacrificed her prime years for your dream. I could picture it. Her at the bar, cigarette in one hand, bitterness in the other, spinning stories for tips. Warping the past to make herself the victim. Painting me as the villain. She always was good at that. Rewriting the truth into a drama where she cried on cue. But the worst part? People believed her. Some of them, at least. Old classmates. Distant relatives. Even a few mutual friends who hadn't seen me in years. They started messaging me. Weird, passive-aggressive things like, I never knew what you did to her was that bad. Or everyone makes mistakes. Maybe give her a chance. I could have fought back publicly. Posted screenshots. Emails. The receipts. Hell, I could have dropped the hotel bookings with Greg's name on them. But I didn't. Instead, I sent her one final message. Not by text. Not a call. I had it hand-delivered. Inside a small, plain envelope was a single item. A photocopy of the prenup. Signed. Dated. Ironclad. We'd barely had anything back then, but I made her sign it anyway. She didn't care at the time. She was already halfway out the door, just hadn't told me yet. Beneath the copy, I added one line. You lost me the second you bet against me. This is the last time your name will ever be in my head. Good luck, Heather. I don't know what she did after that. Don't care. What I do know is this. The smear campaign stopped. The calls ended. The whispers went quiet. She faded. And I lived. That's the thing they never tell you. Revenge isn't fire and fury. It's not screaming at someone or ruining their life in some grand public spectacle. It's silence. It's peace. It's waking up every morning with no anger, no weight on your chest, no urge to look back. It's the quiet knowing that you won. Not because you hurt them, but because you healed, and they didn't. Heather taught me everything I needed to become the man I am now. Not because she supported me, not because she loved me, but because she didn't. Because she walked out. Because she spit on my name and thought it would stain me forever. But it didn't. It washed off. And what was left underneath was solid steel. It was around that time I started sleeping again. Not the light, twitchy, hyper-vigilant sleep I'd grown used to over the years. Real sleep. Deep. Quiet. Dreamless. The kind you only get when your mind has nothing left to fight. I'd won. But not the way people imagine victory. It wasn't the money. Wasn't the jet. Not even the silence from her side. It was the way I stopped needing to explain myself. The way I stopped rehearsing speeches in the mirror, thinking of all the things I could have said to make her regret it sooner. I didn't need to prove anything to her anymore. Or anyone, really. And then something strange happened. I got an invitation. A small envelope, black and gold. Expensive paper. No return address. Just my name, written in that overly neat script rich people use when they want to feel like royalty. Inside, an invitation to a black tie charity gala. For an organization I used to dream of donating to back when I could barely afford toilet paper. Funny how things come full circle. I RSVP'd yes. I wore a tuxedo custom-made in Milan, the kind that fits you like a secret. My date that night. Elena, a woman I met on a panel in Singapore. Smart, sharp, real. She knew everything about my past, and none of it scared her. The gala was full of familiar faces. Bankers, founders, investors. Some people who had once ignored my calls were now offering their cards like candy. I shook hands, smiled, did the dance. Then I saw her. Heather. I almost didn't recognize her at first. Her hair was darker, her skin a little more tired. She wore a green dress that probably looked better on the hanger. She was with a man I didn't know, gray-haired, stiff, wearing a suit 2 sizes too big. A finance guy, maybe, or just someone who could pay for valet. Our eyes met across the room, just for a second, and that second said everything. No smirk, no bitterness, just realization. It hit her, right there, surrounded by people who used to laugh at my dreams, that she was the one who gave up everything. She started walking toward me. I turned to Elena and whispered, "Excuse me for just a minute." Heather reached me as I was halfway to the terrace. "I wasn't expecting to see you here," she said softly. I nodded once. Life's full of surprises. She tried to smile. It didn't land. "You look well." I didn't return the compliment. "I heard about your company. The merger. The fund. Congratulations." "Thanks," I said. She shifted her weight, looking everywhere but at me. "I've been trying to make things work. Different city now. Starting over. That's good." Silence. Then, almost a whisper, "Do you ever miss us?" I studied her face. For a moment, the old pain flickered. The nights I stared at an empty bed. The mornings I drank stale coffee alone. The way it felt to be abandoned when I was already drowning. Then I blinked, and it was gone. "No," I said. "I don't miss people who bet against me." Her eyes dropped. "I wish I'd seen it then," she murmured. "What you were building. Who you were becoming." "You didn't want to see it," I said. "You wanted it already finished." She looked like she wanted to say more. Maybe she'd rehearsed it in the mirror. Maybe she had a whole speech tucked behind her tongue. But I wasn't interested. "I should get back," I said. And I walked away. Not out of spite. Out of peace. That was the last time I saw her. No drama. No screaming. Just a woman standing still in a room full of people moving forward. And me, finally walking away for good. It's strange how quiet the end feels. Not triumphant. Not explosive. Just quiet. Like walking out of a storm and realizing the sun's been up the whole time. You just couldn't see it through the mess. After that gala, I never heard from her again. No more calls. No more letters. No lawsuits. No passive-aggressive messages through friends. Just silence. And that silence was beautiful. I kept building. Expanded the company. Started mentoring kids who reminded me of who I used to be. Broke, hungry, tired, but still somehow hopeful. I invested in people who stayed when things got hard. I created teams with loyalty, with grit, with the kind of fire Heather never understood. My parents? They used to worry about me. Now they brag about me. My dad once called me the storm that never gave up. I like that. Elena and I, well, we built something real. Not flashy, not perfect, but strong. Because she met me after the fire and loved what the fire had shaped. But sometimes, in rare moments, late at night, on long flights, or when a certain song plays, I remember the version of myself she left behind. The man curled up on that couch, rereading her message like it was written in a language he didn't understand. The guy who believed that love was enough. And I don't hate him. I respect him. Because without that pain, without that betrayal, without her, there would be no me. There would be no jet, no empire, no peace. And that's what I've learned. Sometimes, the people who break you are just tools in your evolution. Sometimes, heartbreak is the training ground for greatness. So if you're in the middle of it right now, if someone left you broken, bleeding, confused, thinking you'll never recover, remember this. The man she left for dead became the man she couldn't reach. And the door she slammed shut behind her, it didn't end me. It freed me. Forever. You get the kid. That's what she said. 11 years of marriage. Boiled down to 4 words, she spat like gum she didn't want to chew anymore. We were standing in the kitchen. The papers had been filed. Lawyers were already involved. I thought we'd talk like adults. Try to make this easier for our son. But instead, she leaned back against the counter, arms crossed, smirking like she'd won some twisted game. I'm taking the dog, she added with a sneer. You get the kid. Then her mother, Cheryl, who never missed an opportunity to throw gasoline on a fire, chuckled and said, well, at least the dog's trained. My knuckles turned white around the mug I was holding. I didn't say a word. Not yet. I wasn't done watching this unfold. Not until I knew exactly who I'd married. Her name is Jessica. Blonde. Blue-eyed. Could light up a room when she wanted to. But lately, that light wasn't shining for me. It hadn't in years. And I ignored it because we had a son. Because I believed in loyalty. Because I thought maybe marriages just got boring after a while. Stupid. It started 2 years ago. The late-night work calls. The sudden gym memberships. The laughter at texts I wasn't allowed to see. She'd twist her phone away like it was a reflex. And when I'd ask who it was, she'd smile and say, God, you're so insecure, Michael. Insecure? That word was her shield. Anytime I got too close to the truth, she pulled it out like a sword and sliced me down. And I'd fall for it, over and over again. I tried harder. Bought flowers. Took her out. Wrote her notes like we were still in college. But nothing stuck. Nothing worked. And eventually, I stopped trying. Until I found the receipt. It was tucked inside her coat pocket. A dinner bill from a place she told me was gross just a month earlier. 2 entrees. 1 dessert. Champagne. A $300 bill. And the name written on the reservation? Jaden. I don't know a Jaden. So I asked. She laughed. Are you serious right now? She said, scoffing like I was the clown in her comedy special. That was just a dinner with friends from work. Grow up. I didn't push. Not then. Because I knew if I pushed, she'd shut down. Or worse, she'd double down. But from that moment, I started watching. Quietly. Carefully. And what I saw made my stomach turn. She wasn't just cheating. She was erasing me from her life piece by piece, like I was a chalk drawing on a sidewalk after the rain. My toothbrush disappeared from the bathroom. She switched our wedding photo with a framed motivational quote. And the family calendar on the fridge suddenly didn't have any of my travel dates. She was preparing to eject me. I just didn't know how far she'd already gone. Then one night, I walked past my son's bedroom. He was texting under the covers, face lit up by his phone. I knocked and stepped in. He shoved it under the pillow like he'd been caught with contraband. Who were you texting? I asked. He hesitated, then said, Mom. I didn't think much of it. Until the next morning, when she kissed him goodbye and whispered, Don't forget what I told you. Okay, baby. He nodded. She didn't look at me. Not once. Fast forward to court day. Custody hearing. Tension thick in the air. Jessica sat on the opposite side of the courtroom in a black dress like it was a funeral, probably mine. Her lawyer looked smug. Her mom, sitting behind her, chewed gum like a pit bull on a chew toy. Then my son, our 10-year-old boy, stood up when the judge asked if he wanted to say anything. He looked at me first, then at her, then at the judge. Can I read what Mom texted me last night? The whole room froze. Even the judge raised an eyebrow. Jessica's lawyer turned pale, like someone had unplugged all the blood from his body. And for the first time, Jessica looked scared. Not angry, not smug. Scared. And I just sat there, silent. Because this wasn't my fight anymore. My son was about to take the truth and shove it straight down the throat of the lies she thought would protect her. And I was ready to watch the show. The judge nodded. Go ahead, son. My boy pulled out his phone, hands shaking slightly. His voice was steady, though. He cleared his throat and began reading. Tomorrow, when the judge asks, you say you want to live with Daddy. I already told them I don't want full custody. I can't handle your moods. And if you say anything different, I swear I'll make your life harder than it already is. The silence that followed felt eternal. No one moved. Not a whisper. Not a cough. Just the air itself holding its breath. Jessica's mouth dropped open. Her lawyer whispered something, but she didn't react. Cheryl muttered under her breath, but even she didn't have a comeback for that. The judge stared at Jessica like she'd just confessed to burning the courthouse down. Is that accurate, ma'am? He finally asked. Jessica stammered. I didn't mean, he misunderstood. I was just trying to. The judge cut her off. Don't lie to me in my courtroom. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. My son just proved more than any lawyer ever could. That message wasn't just a mistake, it was proof. Proof that Jessica saw our son as a burden, not a person. Proof that all her crocodile tears were nothing more than theater. And now, the curtain had fallen. Her lawyer asked for a recess. Denied. The judge made his ruling 15 minutes later. Primary custody, awarded to me. Visitation, supervised. Jessica stood frozen. Even as the gavel came down, she didn't speak. She just glared at me like I was the villain in a play she wrote. But I wasn't the villain. I was just the one who stayed. Afterward, outside the courthouse, she stormed up to me. No cameras. No judge. Just raw venom. You think you've won? She hissed. You'll be begging me to take him back when he starts acting like a little freak, just like you. I looked her dead in the eyes. Calm. Cold. No, I said. He's nothing like me. He's better. Because he'll grow up knowing the truth. And you? You'll grow old choking on it. She scoffed and walked away, heels clicking like they were trying to outpace her shame. That night, my son sat across from me at the dinner table. He didn't say much, just picked at his food. Then, quietly, he asked, "Did you know she hated me that much?" I didn't lie. "I think she doesn't know how to love anyone but herself," I said. "But that's her weakness, not yours." He nodded, didn't cry. He just got up, walked over, and hugged me. That was the first real hug I'd had in years. And it broke me, not because I was sad, but because I knew, finally, that the nightmare was over. The next few weeks were quiet. Too quiet, honestly. After years of chaos, after the gaslighting, the walking on eggshells, the late-night arguments that went nowhere, I didn't know what to do with the silence. No slamming doors. No fake apologies. No tension so thick you could slice it with a knife. Just me and my son. Breathing. Healing. But the peace didn't last. Jessica couldn't let it go. She never could. When someone like her loses control, they don't regroup. They retaliate. It started with petty things. Emails from fake accounts calling me a deadbeat. Anonymous comments on my business page claiming I was abusive, a drunk, a failure. Then came the surprise wellness check at the house. Someone had reported me for erratic behavior around my son. The officer was professional. Polite. Did a walkthrough. My son showed him his room, his books, his soccer trophies. The officer even chuckled, said, "This is the cleanest custody case I've ever seen." Still, it rattled me. She wasn't done trying to ruin me. I contacted my lawyer. Filed a harassment report. But Jessica was slippery. Always just on the edge of provable. Just enough to shake me without crossing the line. Just enough to make me second guess if I was losing it. But I wasn't. Then came the unexpected twist. One afternoon, I got a call from Jessica's lawyer. He sounded tired. Defeated. "Mr. Carter," he said, "I need to ask. Has your son shared any further messages from Ms. Carter?" "Why?" He hesitated. "She's made statements that are causing issues with our firm. One of our partners is recommending we drop her." I leaned back in my chair. "Let me guess. She sent something reckless." There was a pause. "She told your son she wished she had given him up for adoption when he was born. That he ruined her 20s. I didn't reply. I couldn't. I was afraid of what would come out of my mouth. She also sent him a photo of her and a man, partially undressed, captioned, "This is what real love looks like. Not your father's pathetic begging." I stood up, heart pounding. "She sent that to a 10-year-old? "Yes. And I'm informing you so you can take appropriate steps. We're pulling out of her case. She needs help, Mr. Carter. Real help." I hung up. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I went straight to my son's room. He was sitting on the floor, headphones in, watching cartoons. He looked up when I opened the door, and I saw it in his eyes. He'd already seen the message, and it had broken something inside him. I sat next to him and said nothing, just wrapped my arm around his shoulder. He leaned into me. After a minute, he whispered, "I don't want to talk to her anymore." I nodded. "You don't have to. But I still miss her, even though she's mean." That one cut deeper than any betrayal she ever gave me, because my son still loved her, and she didn't deserve it. The next morning, I scheduled a session with a child therapist. I didn't want to wait until the damage became permanent. I knew what it was like to grow up with wounds no one saw, the ones that didn't bleed but never healed. My father was emotionally absent, my mother emotionally explosive. I swore I'd break the cycle. I wouldn't let my boy become another man silently screaming inside. The therapist was kind. Warm eyes, soft tone. My son opened up quicker than I expected. Talked about the text. About the photos. About how he used to think his mom was a superhero, but now she felt like a stranger in a costume. When we got back in the car, he asked, "Do you think she ever loved us?" That question hit me like a wrecking ball. I didn't answer right away. How do you explain to a 10-year-old that some people only love themselves, and the rest of us are just mirrors for them to admire their reflection in. I think she loved the idea of us, I finally said. But love without actions isn't love. It's just decoration. He looked out the window, didn't respond. But I saw it, the beginning of understanding. That night, Jessica showed up at our front door. No warning, no call, just stood there like she still had a key. I didn't open the screen door. She was wearing a low-cut blouse, too much perfume, and that fake smile she used when she was lying. "Michael," she cooed, "I think we should talk." "No," I said flatly. "We're done talking." She stepped closer. "You're really going to keep him from me? I'm still his mother." "You were," I said. "Now you're a liability." She laughed. "You think you're better than me? You think your halo's so shiny just because you tricked him into testifying." "He told the truth," I snapped. "Something you haven't done in years." She changed tactics in an instant. The venom was back. "You'll ruin him. He's already soft, just like his father. You think he's going to grow up and thank you for raising him like some spineless doormat." I stepped forward. "Get off my property, Jessica." She stared at me for a long moment, like she was trying to burn holes in me with her eyes. Then she turned around and muttered, "This isn't over." I watched her walk back to her car, heels catching in the gravel. She looked ridiculous, like a queen stripped of her throne but still clinging to the illusion. Inside, my son was peeking through the blinds. "She's not coming back, right?" he asked. "Not if I can help it," I said. He nodded, pulled the blinds shut, and walked away. And just like that, we both began to believe it. Maybe this time, it really was over. 2 days later, a letter arrived. Not an email, not a text. A real letter, in a cream-colored envelope, with her handwriting on the front. Looped, dramatic, always pretending to be something it wasn't. For a moment, I considered throwing it away. But something in me wanted to see the last card she thought she had. I opened it. It wasn't an apology. Of course not. It was a 3-page rant. Page 1 blamed me for everything. For suffocating her. For stealing her freedom. For turning our son into my little soldier. Page 2 focused on her own pain. How the world had been unfair to her. How being a mother ruined her body and her career. How I was just dead weight she dragged through her 20s. Page 3. That was the final blow. She wrote that she was leaving the country with Jaden. That she was finally choosing happiness. And that when our son turned 18, she'd explain to him what really happened and how I had manipulated the whole thing. No remorse. No accountability. Just a bitter farewell wrapped in delusion. I didn't show the letter to my son. There was no need to poison him further. Instead, I sat down at the kitchen table, looked around at the quiet home we'd rebuilt, and felt something new stir inside me. Relief. Not the dramatic kind. Not a wave of euphoria. But a quiet, still kind of freedom. The kind that settles into your bones when the storm finally moves on. Later that evening, my son came into the kitchen. "Dad," he said, "can I tell you something without you getting mad?" "Of course," I replied. "I had a dream last night. That she came back. But it wasn't scary. I just told her to go away, and she listened." I looked at him. 10 years old, but carrying more than most grown men I knew. "You know what that dream means?" I asked. He shook his head. "It means your mind's starting to realize you're safe now. That she can't hurt you anymore." He smiled. Not a big one, but real. It was enough. We spent that weekend doing normal things. We built a treehouse. Ate too much pizza. Watched old action movies with bad CGI. For the first time in years, laughter didn't feel like a mask. But the world didn't stop turning. Monday morning, I got a call from my lawyer. "Michael," he said, "you'll want to hear this. Jessica's visa application was flagged. Turns out Jaden's being investigated for fraud. She might be implicated." I should have been surprised. But I wasn't. "Will this affect custody?" I asked. "Positively. Judges don't take kindly to mothers trying to flee the country with felons." I thanked him and hung up. Later that day, my son asked if we could donate some of the old photos, ones with her in them. Not burn them. I asked with a smile. "Nah," he said. "Burning's for people who are still angry. I'm just done." I nodded. So was I? Weeks passed. Spring melted into summer, and with it, the last frost of that cold chapter in our lives. The house started to feel like ours, not like the ruins of something that used to be. I painted the living room. My son chose the color. Ocean gray, he called it. Not too sad, not too bright. That's what we were now. Not too sad, not too bright, but alive. He started sleeping through the night again. No more waking up in cold sweats. No more questions about why his mother didn't say goodnight. His grades picked up. He made the soccer team. The boy who used to flinch at shadows was starting to run toward the sun again. Then, one evening, as I was cleaning out the garage, I found the old box. Our wedding album, buried under a pile of old cables and broken Christmas lights. I sat on the concrete floor, the box in my lap. I hadn't seen it in years. Had forgotten it even existed. But there it was, our smiles frozen in time. Jessica in her white dress, me in that nervous tux, holding hands like we believed the words we'd said just minutes earlier. I almost threw it out. But something stopped me. I didn't keep it for nostalgia. I kept it as evidence. Not of her betrayal, but of my growth. Of everything I'd survived. Of how far I'd come from that man in the photo who had no idea what storm was brewing behind that smile. I sealed the box again and shoved it back on the shelf. That chapter was over. One Saturday morning, while we were having pancakes, my son asked, "Dad, do you think I'll ever forget all of it?" I put my fork down. "I hope you don't," I said. "Not because it was good, but because it made you strong. And because remembering helps you never let it happen again." He was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. "Okay, can we get a dog?" I laughed. "You want the dog now?" He grinned. "Well, Mom took hers. I want a real one." A month later, we adopted a golden retriever. Named him Atlas, because my son said he wanted someone strong enough to carry the whole world. And maybe, in some way, he already was. One evening, a full year after the court hearing, I got a message request on social media from a name I hadn't seen in a long time. Jessica. I stared at it for a while, unsure if I wanted to open it. Part of me already knew what it would say. Regret always finds its way back, even if it arrives dressed in manipulation. Curiosity won. I clicked. It was short. Unlike her. "Tell him I'm sorry." That's all. That was it. No plea for visitation. No fake tears. No attempt to explain away her choices. Just a line that landed like an echo in an empty room. I didn't reply. I showed it to my son. He read it, blinked once, and said, "Okay." Then went back to his homework. And that was when I realized he didn't need closure from her. He had built something better. Peace without permission. Weeks later, we ran into Cheryl at the grocery store. Her hair was grayer now, and the fire behind her eyes had faded to smoke. She looked surprised to see us, like she'd just glimpsed a ghost that didn't belong to her anymore. "Hi," she said flatly, like politeness was the only weapon left in her arsenal. My son said nothing, just stared at her. She forced a smile. "You're growing up fast." Still, no reply. I put my hand on his shoulder and said, "Come on, buddy, frozen pizzas are waiting." We walked away. She didn't follow. Back in the car, he asked, "Do I have to see her?" "No," I said. "You don't owe anyone anything, especially not people who let you down." He nodded slowly, then reached over and turned on the radio. A song came on, one we used to listen to when things were normal, when the three of us were still pretending to be a family. He turned it up, not down. We sang along, not out of memory, but out of victory, because every verse we belted was a reminder. We were still here, still standing, still whole, and nothing she did could ever change that. A year turned into 2. Atlas grew from a clumsy puppy into a loyal shadow that followed my son everywhere. The house had new photos on the walls now. No more wedding albums, no forced smiles, no ghosts pretending to be memories. Just real moments. Soccer trophies, camping trips, pancake mornings with syrup on noses. One night, while we sat on the porch watching Atlas chase fireflies, my son said something I'll never forget. "You know what I realized, Dad? You didn't just save me from her. You saved me from becoming like her." I didn't respond right away. I couldn't. My throat locked up, and the only thing I could do was pull him into a hug. He didn't pull away. The truth is, I didn't feel like a hero. Not then. Maybe not ever. I made mistakes. I waited too long to leave. I let her lie to both of us, over and over again. But I fought when it mattered. I showed up when it counted. And maybe that's what being a father really is. Being the net that catches your child when someone else tries to throw them away. Jessica eventually moved out of state. Word came through mutual friends that Jaden left her. Took her money and ran. She tried suing him. Lost. She tried coming back. No one answered the door. As for my son, he's thriving. Top of his class. Strong, but not bitter. He knows the value of love because he's seen the damage of its counterfeit. People ask me sometimes if I'll ever date again. Maybe. One day. But right now, I'm not chasing someone to fix what she broke. I'm building something from scratch, with the one person who never gave up on me, even when I gave up on myself. To anyone reading this, here's what I learned. If someone shows you they don't value you, believe them. If they laugh while you're drowning, stop trying to teach them to swim. Some people only love the power they feel when you're weak. And most importantly, don't fight to save a family that was never a family to begin with. Build a new one. Even if it's just you, a 10-year-old boy, and a golden retriever named Atlas. Because sometimes, that's more than enough. It happened on a night I was supposed to feel celebrated. I remember holding the tray of drinks like an outsider in my own home, watching my wife, Jessica, clink glasses with her girlfriends like I didn't exist. I wasn't supposed to be at that party for long. I had just flown in early to surprise her after 2 weeks away on a business trip in Atlanta. I wanted to be romantic. Thought she'd smile, hug me, maybe whisper something sweet in my ear. But she didn't even flinch when I walked in. She just looked me up and down and said, "You're back? You could have at least warned me. This is kind of my night." Her night? The house was full of my things. My whiskey, my record spinning, my face on that dumb happy anniversary banner that now felt like a cruel joke. The party was a setup for her and her friends to drink and laugh and post Instagram stories like they were some hot reality show crew. I was the awkward extra who hadn't gotten the script. I played nice at first, just stood there and smiled like a damn fool. Then I heard it. They were standing by the kitchen island, thinking I couldn't hear, while I poured another drink. Jessica was talking about me like I was a pathetic stray she picked up out of guilt. I mean, he tries. She snorted, loud enough that the room paused. But I swear, watching him attempt to be confident is like watching a fish climb a tree. Laughter erupted. Her friend Madison chimed in. "Did you see how he dressed? I thought he was the Uber driver." And Jessica, God, she turned to me with this smug, venomous grin and said, "Smile, honey. You're embarrassing yourself." That was the moment I snapped. I walked up to her, looked her dead in the eyes, and said, "You enjoy humiliating me, huh? Is this how you treat someone who gave you a house, a life, a future?" She rolled her eyes, like I was interrupting something beneath her. "Oh, spare me the monologue. It's not my fault you turned out to be a walking disappointment." I felt like I couldn't breathe. Not from anger. From heartbreak. Because for the first time, I realized this wasn't her acting out. This was her true face. The woman I married was a performance, and the curtain had just dropped. But it got worse. Madison, still laughing, said, "Tell him about you and Noah." And Jessica, she didn't deny it. She just said, "Oops, oops." That's how she confessed to sleeping with one of her co-workers' husbands. A guy I'd met, shook hands with, took golfing. That, oops, sliced me open wider than any knife ever could. I walked outside, not to cool down, but because I felt like I was about to black out. And I did. I remember the flash of cold against my skin, then lights, voices, the pavement spinning, the stress, the betrayal, the plane ride. I collapsed right on the lawn. An ambulance came minutes later. Neighbors were already gathering. But it wasn't until the EMT said the word stroke that the laughter inside finally stopped. Jessica's face turned pale. Her friends froze. Suddenly, they weren't influencers drinking wine anymore. They were a bunch of heartless women realizing they might have mocked a dying man. Funny thing, though, lying there in that ambulance, wired up, I wasn't scared. I was planning. Because if Jessica thought that was embarrassing, she hadn't seen what I had in store. They kept me overnight at the hospital for observation. I stared at the ceiling, unmoving, listening to the slow beep of the monitor, replaying her words again and again. Oops. That one syllable kept hitting me like a hammer. Not just the betrayal, but the casual cruelty of it. The indifference. The next morning, Jessica showed up. No flowers. No apology. Just her designer sunglasses on top of her head, and that irritated sigh like I was wasting her time. "You good?" she asked, like I just tripped and scraped my knee. I didn't answer. She glanced around the room like she was checking to see who might be watching. "Look, I didn't mean for things to get that far. We were drinking. It was just a stupid night. Nothing serious." I turned my head slowly toward her. "So it happened." She scoffed, like I was being dramatic. "I already told you. Noah and I messed around, okay? It wasn't some grand love story. I was bored. You were gone. What do you want me to say?" The worst part? She wasn't even ashamed. No guilt, no panic. Just annoyance that she had to explain herself to me. The man whose name was still on every bill, every deed, every damn part of her comfortable life. You know, I said quietly, I nearly died last night. Don't be dramatic. That's what the doctor said. Jessica crossed her arms. So now I'm the reason you collapsed? You laughed while I did it. I snapped, my voice finally rising. You and your little friends mocked me until I hit the ground. And you just kept sipping wine. She rolled her eyes, her mouth twisting into a sneer. Oh, please. You're not some fragile little lamb. You're a grown man having a midlife meltdown because his ego got bruised. Maybe if you were less sensitive and more, I don't know, manly, I wouldn't be looking for attention elsewhere. That stung. I stayed silent. Let her speak. Let her show me everything I needed to know. Because I wasn't the same man who walked into that party. That man still believed in her. Still thought there was a version of Jessica worth fighting for. That man was dead the moment she said, oops. I was already thinking 10 steps ahead. 2 days later, I left the hospital and went straight to the bank. Froze the joint accounts. Changed passwords. Pulled security footage from our home system. Something she clearly forgot existed. Within an hour, I had a dozen clips of her sneaking around while I was out of town, even bringing Noah into my house, into my bed. I didn't react. I documented. Every lie. Every sneer. Every kiss caught on camera. I didn't scream. I didn't confront her. I waited. That Friday, she was throwing another party at our house, another wine-fueled gathering of gossips and self-obsessed wannabes. I watched it all from a rental car parked across the street. She had no idea I was there. No idea what I was about to do. Because if she thought laughing at me made her powerful, wait until she saw what real humiliation feels like. And the ambulance? That was only the beginning. I waited until the music hit its peak. I knew the rhythm of these parties. Loud beats, clinking glasses, a dozen fake laughs echoing around the walls I paid for. I watched Jessica twirl around the living room in a backless dress I'd bought her, acting like a teenage queen in a cheap reality show. Then I pressed play. The security footage I'd compiled had been edited, clean, chronological, damning. I uploaded it to the living room TV from my phone using the old smart home system she forgot I still controlled. No warning, no message. Just silence as the music stopped, then the unmistakable grainy footage of her and Noah entering our bedroom. At first, the room didn't register what they were seeing. Then the gasp started. Jessica turned toward the TV, her wine glass mid-air, frozen. On screen, she was laughing, climbing into bed, Noah's shirt already half off. She kissed him, loud and desperate, like she was starved. She pulled the curtains. The footage ended there, but it didn't need to go further. The room went dead quiet. Her friend stared. Madison covered her mouth. Jessica didn't move for 5 full seconds. Then she turned to the crowd and said, "Who the hell is playing games?" Her voice cracked. It was the first time I'd seen her mask slip. I stepped through the door right then, calm, like I was just arriving home from work. I walked past the shocked guests, past the silence that now choked the air, past her wide eyes. "Don't stop the party on my account," I said. "Keep the wine flowing. You've got plenty of time before the real fun begins." Jessica stormed up to me. "What the hell is this, Eric? Are you serious?" I leaned close, just enough for her to hear. "Dead serious. And this is only part 1. She pushed me in the chest. "You're a psychopath. Compared to you?" I smiled. "I'm a saint." She looked at her friends for support. None of them said a word. A few looked down at their feet. Madison had tears in her eyes. "Get out," Jessica screamed. "I'd love to," I replied. "But unfortunately, you'll be the one leaving." She laughed like I'd told a bad joke. "You're not kicking me out of my house." I handed her a manila envelope. "Deeds in my name. So are the utilities. The bills. Even the damn Netflix account." She ripped it open, scanned the first few pages, and her face went white. "You can't do this." "I already did," I said. Jessica wasn't used to losing. She was used to manipulating, gaslighting, breaking people down until they second-guessed themselves. But there was nothing to break now. I wasn't the same man who quietly paid her credit card bills and believed her girl trips to Miami were innocent. I turned to the guests. "Thanks for coming. Jessica will update you on her new address. Maybe Noah can help her pack." And then, right on cue, the knock came. 2 uniformed officers at the door. Jessica panicked. "You called the cops?" "Nope," I said. "But when someone tries to open a line of credit using your business account, the bank alerts fraud protection. and they alert the police. Her mouth dropped open. I leaned close one last time. I told you that night, when I was lying in the ambulance, that you'd regret laughing. Welcome to the regret. She was still screaming when they walked her out. Her friends didn't follow. No one did. And I sat down on the same couch she once mocked me from, poured myself a drink, and hit play again. Footage rolled. But this time, it was me smiling. The weekend that followed was quieter than I expected. Not peaceful, just quiet. I didn't go out. Didn't answer calls. Just stayed home, walking through every room Jessica used to poison with her vanity. Her perfume still lingered in the bathroom. Lipstick-stained wine glasses sat unwashed in the sink. Every corner of the house whispered what I had been too blind, too stupid, too trusting to see. But something inside me had shifted. The humiliation no longer burned. It smoldered cold, like steel being forged. Monday morning, I walked into my office like nothing happened. My assistant, Claire, looked up and paused mid-sentence when she saw my face. "Rough weekend?" she asked carefully. "You could say that," I muttered. "Jessica and I are done." Claire stared, then slowly nodded. "Good." I looked up, surprised. "You're not shocked?" She shook her head. I always knew she was the type who smiled with her teeth, not her eyes. "You deserved better." It was the first time in days I felt something close to warmth. I sat down at my desk and began working, not out of distraction, but with purpose. While Jessica spent her time curating a fantasy on social media, I had spent mine building a real legacy. The business was mine, the name was mine, and as of that morning, the lawyers had filed all the papers to make sure nothing of mine would ever be tied to hers again. That afternoon, a message pinged on my phone. Unknown number. "Eric, it's Madison. Please talk to me." I stared at it for a moment, then another came in. "Madison, she's been telling people you hit her, that you manipulated her, that you made her life miserable." I almost laughed. That's how it starts, the rewriting of the story. Jessica was no longer the cheating, cruel wife who laughed while I collapsed on the grass. No, she'd already started playing the victim. I didn't respond. But later that night, I saw the real reason Madison messaged. A video popped up online. Someone had leaked footage of the party, the moment the security video started playing. Jessica's face, the crowd gasping, her pushing me, the scream when the cops showed up. It went viral on TikTok within hours. Tens of thousands of comments. Her mask had cracked for the world to see. Her perfect little empire of curated lies crumbled in a day. That evening, Noah showed up at my gate. Alone, nervous, sweating like a sinner in church. I watched him from the security camera. Pressed the speaker. "You're brave," I said. He looked straight into the camera. "Man, I didn't know. I swear. She told me you two were separated. She said you were cold, controlling, that you cheated first." "Did you believe her?" He rubbed his face. "At first. But after that party, after what she said in front of everyone. No, that wasn't right." "What do you want, Noah?" I just wanted to say, "I'm sorry." I let him stand there in silence. Then shut off the feed. I wasn't angry anymore. I didn't need revenge. I had already won the moment Jessica realized she couldn't spin the truth fast enough to save her ego. The moment her friends stopped laughing. The moment the world saw her not as a queen, but as a fraud. The next morning, a delivery arrived. A box of Jessica's things from her lawyer. Jewelry, clothes, a handwritten note that said, "I hope you're happy now." I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I was finally free. I left the box unopened on the kitchen counter. Let it sit there like some pathetic shrine to a version of her that never existed. For hours, I walked past it, tempted to burn it, trash it, maybe dump it at her new doorstep with a note that read, "You forgot your lies." But in the end, I didn't need to touch it. That night, while I was making coffee, I heard a car pull up. I looked through the peephole and felt my stomach twist. Jessica, wearing black leggings, a hoodie that wasn't hers, probably Noah's, and sunglasses at night like that somehow made her invisible. She stood there for a while, arms crossed, pretending to be composed. Then she knocked, soft at first, then again, louder. I didn't open. She pulled out her phone. A text came in a few seconds later. "Jessica, I just want to talk." No drama. Another knock. "Jessica, please, Eric. Just 5 minutes." Still I waited. Made her stew in it. When I finally opened the door, I didn't say a word. Just leaned against the frame, watching her fidget like a guilty teenager called to the principal's office. She looked awful. Eyes sunken, hair pulled back in a loose knot, lip trembling no matter how hard she tried to fake calm. "I saw the video," she said. "It's everywhere." I nodded. "I know." She took a breath. "You really had to ruin me like that?" I raised an eyebrow. "Ruin you? Jessica, you did that yourself. I just stopped covering for you." Her mouth twisted into something between a sneer and a pout. "People think I'm a monster. You mocked your husband while he was collapsing in front of you. I don't think they think you're a monster. They watched it happen." She didn't speak for a long time, just looked past me into the house. "I was angry," she whispered. "I felt trapped." "No, you felt bored," I snapped. "There's a difference." She stepped forward, reaching for my hand. "Can we just talk? Please. You don't have to take me back. I need to explain." I pulled my hand back like her touch burned. "You don't owe me explanations. You owe me silence." That finally hit her. She stepped back, bit her lip. "I have nothing left," she said quietly. "I lost my job. My family won't talk to me. Noah ghosted me after the video. Everyone thinks I'm trash. And," she blinked, "and I don't know what to do." I leaned in, voice low and cold. "You're going to wake up every day with that same sinking feeling in your chest. The one I lived with for months while you lied to my face. You're going to watch every person in your life hesitate before trusting you. And every mirror you look into will remind you who you really are." Tears welled up, but she wiped them fast. Still trying to keep control. Still acting. She turned to leave, but I called after her. "Jessica." She looked back. I tossed her the envelope with the contents of the box. "Don't come back here. Not for a talk. Not for closure. Not for anything." She caught it, barely, her hands trembling. And then she walked back to the car. I closed the door before I could feel anything. Locked it. Went back to my coffee. Sat in the silence she used to fill with noise and insults and fake love. And for the first time in months, I felt light. Not happy, but weightless. The days after that felt surreal. Not because of sadness. There was no grief left in me. But because of how easy it was to breathe again. No more second-guessing where she was. No more pretending not to notice the texts she hid or the smirks she gave when I walked into a room. Just silence. And freedom. But even in freedom, there were ghosts. Ghosts that wore her perfume, haunted my memory with old smiles that I now knew were rehearsed. I caught myself cooking too much food out of habit, watching a movie and instinctively turning to say something to her. Then remembering. She was gone. And thank God for that. One afternoon, I got a call from a blocked number. I ignored it. Then it rang again. And again. The fourth time, I picked up. It was Noah. His voice was tight, nervous. "Hey man, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I thought you should know. Jessica's not doing great." I didn't say a word. "She's been showing up at my place," he continued. "Drunk, screaming at me through the door, saying I used her, that I ruined her life." "You did," I said flatly. "I mean, yeah, but I didn't expect her to go off the rails like this. Why are you telling me?" He hesitated. "Because I think she's going to do something stupid." For a second, I almost felt something. Worry? Pity? Some leftover piece of the man who once loved her? But it passed. "Then call her family," I said. "Call the police. Call a therapist. I'm not her savior. Not anymore." Noah was quiet. "She keeps saying she wants to make it right. That you'll forgive her." I laughed, short, bitter. "She doesn't want forgiveness. She wants erasure. She wants it all to be undone. But it can't be. And I won't let it." He didn't argue. I hung up. That evening, I sat outside on the porch with a glass of bourbon. The sun was low, sky bleeding orange over the rooftops. A neighbor walked by with his dog and nodded. Just a normal, quiet moment. And then I realized, for the first time in years, my peace wasn't fragile. It wasn't dependent on someone else's moods, lies, or loyalty. It was mine. A few days later, the divorce papers were finalized. No drama. No fight. Just her shaky signature at the bottom of a document that severed the last chain she had on me. My lawyer handed me the final folder. "You're officially free," he said. And I was. I walked out of the building and didn't look back. Not because I wanted to forget her, but because I already had. Weeks passed. Life, in its own quiet way, began stitching itself back together. I changed the furniture, repainted the walls, took down every photo that had her smile in it. The house didn't feel like a mausoleum anymore. It felt like a blank slate. I started waking up before sunrise again. Not out of stress, but out of clarity. I'd go for long walks before the world was awake. Just me, the cold air, and a body that finally stopped carrying the weight of a woman who'd rather see me humiliated than loved. Friends started reaching out. Not the ones Jessica filtered into my life, the real ones. People I hadn't seen in years because she didn't like their vibe or thought they weren't a good influence. Funny how liars always isolate you from the honest ones. One night, my old friend Kyle came over with a six-pack. We hadn't hung out in over a year. He sat down, cracked open a beer, and said, "Man, I hated her." I chuckled. "You could have told me that earlier." "I tried. You were too far in. You looked at her like she lit up your world. But all I saw was smoke." We drank, talked, laughed for the first time in months. At one point he leaned back and said, "You know what the worst part is? She almost won." "What do you mean?" "She didn't just cheat on you, Eric. She tried to make you feel worthless while doing it. Like she could crush you and still have the world clap for her. That's not just betrayal, that's war." He was right. It was war, and I'd survived it. There was one last thing I needed to do. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It wasn't about closure. It was about documenting what happened so I'd never let it happen again. I opened my laptop and started writing. Not a novel, not a blog post, just a document titled "The Day I Woke Up." I wrote every detail. From the first red flag I ignored to the cruel words she spat at that party. I wrote about how she laughed when I collapsed, about the ambulance, about the silence that followed. I didn't write it to shame her. I wrote it to remind myself what survival looked like. And then I hit print, stapled the pages, and put it in a folder in the back of my closet. Not to reread, just to remember. So that one day, if another smile ever walks into my life with sharp teeth hiding behind it, I'll know better. So I'll never again confuse a storm for a summer breeze. And most of all, so I never forget that the worst day of my life was also the day I got my freedom back. A few months later, I stood on the edge of a cliff in Big Sur, wind whipping through my jacket, the ocean roaring below. I had taken a trip, solo. No plans, no destination. Just a car, a map I barely looked at, and a heart that was finally mine again. I looked out at the endless blue, thought about the man I used to be, the one who tiptoed around Jessica's moods, who mistook her insults for honesty, who called it love when it was really control. That man was buried, right where he needed to be. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. One missed call. No name. Then a text. "Jessica, do you ever miss me?" I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I opened the camera, pointed it at the ocean, took a photo, and sent it back. Me. No. Blocked her. And just like that, silence again. But this time, it wasn't empty. It was sacred. Because here's what no one tells you. Betrayal doesn't just break your heart. It breaks your delusion. And when the illusion shatters, when the mask falls, you finally get to meet yourself. The real you. Stronger, smarter, colder, but in the best way. Jessica taught me exactly who I don't want beside me. So one day, when the right one does come along, I'll know. I'll recognize love, not by her smile or her words, but by how quiet my soul stays when she's near. No panic, no guessing, just peace. That's my victory. And that's the end.
Wendy's phone lit up at 2:13 a.m. The soft vibration on the nightstand wouldn't have woken me if I hadn't already been lying there, staring at the ceiling, feeling that nagging sense that something was off. I reached over, barely glancing at the screen, until the words carved themselves into my brain. "Last night was insane. I can still feel you on me. Same time tomorrow?" Winking face. My pulse slammed in my ears. The sender's name wasn't saved, just a random number, but that didn't matter. The message said everything I needed to know. Beside me, Wendy lay curled up, her breathing slow and steady, completely unaware that her carefully built world was seconds from burning to the ground. My fingers hovered over the phone, tempted to scroll up, to dig deeper, but I didn't need more proof. The truth was already there, glowing in the dark. The weight in my chest tightened, but rage kept it from crushing me. If I woke her up now, she'd deny everything. Twist the story. Turn it around on me. No, this required patience. She thought she was in control, but she had no idea what was coming. The phone felt heavy in my hands, the message burning into my mind like a brand. My wife, Wendy, the woman I built a life with, the woman who once swore I was the only man she'd ever love, was lying to my face. And not just lying. Sneaking. Cheating. Living a double life while I was out working late, paying for the very bed she desecrated. I put the phone back exactly where I found it. No need to tip her off yet. The weight in my chest wasn't sadness anymore. It was something colder, sharper. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was an insult. Lying next to me, Wendy shifted slightly, sighing in her sleep, completely oblivious. My fingers curled into fists, but I forced myself to stay still. If she wanted to play dirty, I'd play smarter. Storming in and screaming wouldn't satisfy me. I needed to know everything. Who he was, how long it had been going on, every filthy little detail she thought she had hidden. And then, when she least expected it, I'd rip her world apart. By the time my alarm went off at 6, I had barely closed my eyes. Wendy stretched lazily, running a hand through her blonde hair before smiling at me like nothing was wrong. Like she wasn't sleeping with another man behind my back. "Morning, babe," she murmured, her voice thick with sleep. It took every ounce of restraint not to let my disgust show. I leaned in, kissed her on the forehead, and forced a smirk. "Morning. Sleep well?" She nodded, rolling onto her side, completely at ease. Like a baby. You?" I shrugged, slipping out of bed, acting like today was just another normal day. Tossed and turned a bit. If only she knew why. Wendy headed to the shower while I grabbed my phone, stepping out onto the balcony under the pretense of checking emails. Instead, I scrolled through her messages, looking for anything else that could paint a bigger picture. But she was careful. Most of their conversations were deleted, except for the one mistake, the message that woke me up. If she was smart enough to cover her tracks, it meant she wasn't new to this. This wasn't a one-time slip-up. This was planned, rehearsed. That thought alone made my blood boil. When she came out, towel wrapped around her, smelling like vanilla and sin, I kept my face neutral. "Hey, you free for lunch today?" She blinked, caught off guard. "Lunch? Yeah. Thought we could meet up, maybe try that new place downtown." Her hesitation lasted a second too long. I can't. I have, lunch with Megan." "Megan." Right. Her go-to alibi whenever she needed a cover story. I almost laughed at how sloppy she was. "No problem," I said, making sure my disappointment sounded genuine. "Maybe tomorrow." She smiled, relieved. "Definitely. I bet." She left for work an hour later, but I wasn't far behind. I tailed her from a distance, weaving through traffic, keeping just enough space so she wouldn't notice. The entire time, my heart pounded, not from fear, but from the rush of knowing I was about to confirm the worst. And I did. She didn't drive to the office. She didn't meet Megan. She pulled into a hotel parking lot, her car slipping into a spot like it was second nature. I parked across the street, hands gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles went white. A few minutes later, another car pulled in beside hers. A man stepped out. Tall. Athletic. Expensive suit. He looked around once before heading inside, and 30 seconds later, Wendy followed. She didn't even hesitate. I sat there, staring at the entrance, watching the doors swing shut behind her. My world should have collapsed right then and there. But all I felt was a strange sense of calm. The evidence was right in front of me now. There was no room for doubt, no space for excuses. And now, it was my turn to act. I didn't move. I sat there in my car, watching the hotel entrance like a predator waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to march inside, kick down that door, and drag Wendy out by the wrist, force her to look me in the eyes while I exposed every lie she had told. But I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of a dramatic scene. No, she didn't deserve that kind of reaction. Instead, I took a deep breath, my grip on the steering wheel loosening as a different plan took shape. I needed more than just the sight of her walking into a hotel with another man. I needed undeniable proof, something that would leave her with no way out. And I knew exactly how to get it. Stepping out of the car, I crossed the street and headed for the hotel entrance. The lobby smelled like polished wood and expensive cologne, a place meant for quiet affairs and whispered betrayals. The receptionist barely glanced at me as I walked past, my stride confident, like I belonged there. I made my way to the elevator and hit the button. A man in a navy suit stepped in beside me, scrolling through his phone. My reflection in the elevator's mirrored walls looked foreign, jaw tight, eyes sharp, a man on the verge of something irreversible. The doors slid open on the 4th floor, and I stepped out. I didn't know the exact room, but I didn't need to. A hallway camera was mounted near the ceiling, its small red light blinking. That was my ticket. I took out my phone and snapped a quick picture of it before making my way back down, keeping my head low, blending in. Back in my car, I made a call. "Hey, Adam, I need a favor." Adam was an old college friend who now worked in private security. More importantly, he owed me one. What kind of favor? The kind where you don't ask too many questions. There was a pause, then a sigh. Fine. What do you need? Access to security footage from the Beaumont Hotel. 4th floor, today between noon and 1. Another pause. Jesus, Jake. You in trouble? Not me. Just need some proof. Adam didn't ask anything else, just muttered a curse and told me to give him an hour. I hung up and leaned back in my seat, watching the hotel doors. The idea of Wendy tangled up with another man, whispering things she used to say to me, laughing at some inside joke, made my stomach turn. But if I wanted to win this game, I had to keep my head clear. An hour later, Adam sent a file to my phone. I opened it, and there it was, grainy footage of Wendy stepping out of the elevator with her mystery man. They walked side by side, close but not touching, then stopped in front of a door. Room 417. He swiped the keycard, she smiled up at him, and they disappeared inside. I exhaled slowly, staring at the screen. This was it. Cold, hard proof. The final nail in the coffin of my marriage. Wendy walked out an hour later, smoothing her hair, adjusting her blouse like nothing had happened. The man followed a few minutes after, fixing his tie. He turned slightly toward the camera, and for the first time, I got a clear look at his face. My stomach dropped. I knew him. Logan Carter. A name I never expected to see in this mess. He wasn't some random stranger. He was my coworker. Rage flooded my veins. Of all the people in the world, she had to pick him? A guy I sat in meetings with, exchanged handshakes with? She wasn't just cheating, she was making a joke out of my entire life. My fingers hovered over my phone, torn between calling Wendy and driving straight to Logan's office to knock his teeth in. But that wasn't enough. Not yet. If I played this right, I could make both of them pay in ways they'd never see coming. I took a deep breath, forcing the anger down. My revenge had to be calculated. Precise. And it started now. The shock of seeing Logan's face faded quickly, replaced by something colder. This wasn't just about Wendy anymore. This was personal on another level. My wife and a man I worked with, someone who shook my hand, smiled at me across conference tables, acted like a friend. The sheer arrogance of it made my blood boil. I gripped the steering wheel, my mind already piecing together my next move. I couldn't just confront them in a blind rage. No, they didn't deserve an easy way out. They needed to feel what I felt, trapped, exposed, powerless. I started the car and drove, not home, not to work, but to a place where I could think clearly. A small cafe on the outskirts of town, quiet, the kind of place where no one would pay attention to a man sitting alone, planning his wife's downfall. My coffee sat untouched as I scrolled through the photos and video again. Wendy, laughing, looking up at Logan like he was the center of her world. My grip tightened on the phone. Step 1 was simple: gather more proof. A single video was good, but I needed more: texts, emails, anything that showed the depth of her betrayal. Lucky for me, Wendy wasn't exactly a tech genius. I logged into our shared phone account. We had been on the same plan for years, and she never changed the password. Within minutes, I had access to her call logs and text records. The number from last night popped up immediately. Dozens of calls, some lasting hours. Digging deeper, I found her email open on the iPad at home, because of course she never logged out. She had been sloppy, arrogant, thinking she was untouchable. The emails were worse than I expected. I can't stop thinking about yesterday. You know how to make me feel alive in ways Jake never could. Let's sneak away this weekend. He won't suspect a thing. You make me feel like a real woman. With Jake, I just feel stuck. Every word was a knife in my back. Every sentence a reminder of how she had been using me, stringing me along while she built a fantasy life behind my back. I copied everything. Screenshots, downloads, even voice messages she had sent him. Proof that would destroy her when the time came. The rage inside me simmered, but I wasn't done. Step 2, make them sweat. I sent Wendy a text. Hey, change of plans. I'm taking the afternoon off. Let's grab lunch. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Oh, babe, I wish I could, but I have a meeting with my manager. Maybe later. Lies. The same manager who had called out sick today? I grinned, but there was no humor in it. She had no idea what was coming. I sent Logan a message next. I didn't text him often, but today was different. Hey, man. You free for a drink tonight? Need to talk. A pause. Then a reply. Sure, everything okay? Yeah, just some stuff on my mind. Let's meet at Hudson's at 7. I could almost hear the gears turning in his head, wondering if I knew. I hoped he was sweating already. By the time I got home, Wendy was already there, acting like nothing was wrong. She greeted me with a kiss, her smile as fake as her loyalty. How was your day? She asked, curling up on the couch beside me like a devoted wife. Busy, I said smoothly, draping an arm around her shoulders. Looking forward to unwinding tonight. She nuzzled closer, and I had to resist the urge to shove her away. Instead, I ran my fingers through her hair, keeping my expression calm. By the way, I said casually, Logan and I are grabbing drinks later. For the first time in years, I saw fear flicker in her eyes. She hit it fast, but I caught it. She forced a laugh. That's nice. You guys don't usually hang out one-on-one. I shrugged. Figured we should. You know, talk. Her grip on my hand tightened slightly. About what? I smiled, letting my thumb trace slow circles on her wrist. Oh, just some things I found out today. Wendy's whole body stiffened. Good. Let the paranoia sink in. I kissed her on the forehead, standing up. Don't wait up for me, sweetheart. Her lips parted like she wanted to ask something, but she didn't. She just nodded, watching me go. As I walked out the door, I knew one thing for certain. By the time tonight was over, neither Wendy nor Logan would ever see me the same way again. Hudson's bar was dimly lit, filled with the low hum of conversation and clinking glasses. I arrived early, choosing a booth in the corner where I could watch the entrance. The anticipation burned in my chest, but my face remained unreadable. Logan was about to walk into his worst nightmare, and he didn't even know it yet. A few minutes later, he stepped inside, scanning the room before spotting me. He approached with that same easy confidence he always carried at work, relaxed, unbothered. As if he wasn't sneaking around with another man's wife. "Jake, my man," he said, sliding into the booth across from me. "Didn't expect this. What's on your mind?" I studied him. Broad shoulders, clean cut, always well dressed. A guy who prided himself on being the smartest one in the room. Except tonight, he wasn't. I smirked. "Just needed a drink. Thought we should catch up." Logan nodded, signaling the waitress. He ordered a whiskey. I ordered the same. Small talk filled the first few minutes, work, sports, harmless conversation. I let him settle in, let him think this was just a normal night. Then, I leaned forward, setting my glass down with a soft clink. "You ever been in a situation where you found out something you weren't supposed to know?" Logan raised an eyebrow, swirling the whiskey in his glass. "Depends on the situation. Let's say," I continued, keeping my tone casual, "someone close to you was hiding something. Lying. Betraying you. What would you do?" His grip on the glass tightened slightly. "That's a heavy question, man." I nodded. "Yeah. But it's important, don't you think? Knowing who you can trust." Something flickered in his expression. He shifted in his seat, forcing a chuckle. "You good, Jake? You seem different tonight." I tilted my head, watching him squirm. He wasn't stupid. He was starting to feel it now. That creeping doubt. "Funny thing," I said, pulling my phone from my pocket and placing it on the table, screen facing up. "I came across something interesting today." I tapped the screen, opening the security footage from the hotel. The grainy video played in silence, him and Wendy stepping into the elevator, walking to their room, the door clicking shut behind them. Logan froze. His face drained of color. His easy confidence shattered in an instant. My voice was calm, almost too calm. Imagine my surprise when I saw my wife walking into a hotel with my coworker. He swallowed hard. "Jake, listen." I held up a hand. "No. You listen." The weight of my words hung between us. He looked around as if searching for an escape, but there was none. I had him cornered. "You've been sleeping with Wendy," I said, voice steady. "How long?" Logan hesitated, then exhaled sharply. "Look, man, I didn't mean for this to happen." I laughed. A dry, humorless sound. "Didn't mean for it to happen? What, you just tripped and fell into my wife's bed?" He rubbed his face, frustration and guilt battling in his expression. "It wasn't planned. It just happened." "Right," I said, leaning back. The late-night texts. The meetings in hotels. The lies. That just happened? He opened his mouth, then closed it, knowing there was no defense. I picked up my drink, took a slow sip, and let the silence suffocate him. "So, tell me. What exactly did you two talk about when you weren't?" I smirked, choosing my words carefully. "Making each other feel alive?" Logan flinched. He knew I had seen the messages. "Jake, man, I swear, I never wanted to hurt you." "But you did," I interrupted. "And now, I get to decide what happens next." His breathing quickened. "Are you gonna tell Wendy you know?" I shook my head. "Not yet." He blinked. "Not yet?" "Because first," I continued, my voice low and sharp, "I want you to know what it feels like to lose control. To wonder when the floor is going to collapse under you." His jaw clenched. "What do you want?" I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I'll let you know soon. Then, I stood up, tossing a few bills onto the table. Enjoy your drink, Logan. He didn't move, just sat there, rattled, unsure whether I was going to destroy him tomorrow or let him suffer in suspense. As I walked out of the bar, the night air felt electric against my skin. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Walking into my house that night, I felt different. Not defeated. Not broken. In control. Wendy sat on the couch, pretending to scroll through her phone, but I could see the tension in her posture. She had been waiting for me, probably replaying our earlier conversation, wondering if I knew something. Oh, I knew everything. She looked up, forcing a smile. Hey, babe. How was your night? I dropped my keys on the counter, watching her closely. Good. Logan and I had an interesting talk. She froze for just a second, barely noticeable, but I caught it. Oh. She tucked her hair behind her ear, keeping her voice light. What about? I sat down across from her, leaning back, pretending to relax. Work. Life. Trust. I let the last word hang in the air, watching for her reaction. Her fingers gripped her phone a little tighter. That's deep. Yeah. It got me thinking, I continued, tilting my head. You ever think about trust, Wendy? About how fragile it is? A flash of panic crossed her face, but she quickly covered it with a fake laugh. Of course. Trust is everything in a marriage. I almost laughed at the irony. Exactly. I let the silence stretch, making her sweat. She shifted in her seat. Jake, what's going on? I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. I know, Wendy. Her breath hitched. Know what? I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table. This. I tapped the screen, playing the security footage from the hotel. Her face drained of color as she watched herself walk into that room with Logan. The evidence was undeniable. She didn't breathe. Didn't blink. Then, she did exactly what I expected. Jake, it's not what it looks like, she blurted out, voice trembling. I laughed, shaking my head. That's the best you've got? After all the effort you put into sneaking around, that's your defense? Tears welled in her eyes, but they weren't real. I knew Wendy too well. She wasn't crying because she felt guilty. She was crying because she got caught. I was lonely, she whispered, reaching for my hand. You were always so busy, so distant. I needed someone to. I yanked my hand away, my anger sharp. Don't. Don't you dare make this my fault. She flinched, but the act was slipping. I saw the frustration creeping in, the realization that her excuses weren't working. You don't understand, she tried again, voice shaking. It wasn't about love. It was just. I just needed excitement. I exhaled slowly, nodding. Excitement. Right. I stood up, pacing the room. So, instead of talking to me, instead of working through things, you decided to screw Logan behind my back. She pressed her lips together, her tears vanishing in an instant. The guilt act was over. You're being dramatic. I stopped, turning to her. Dramatic? I laughed bitterly. You destroyed our marriage, and I'm the one being dramatic? She crossed her arms, her expression shifting to something colder. So, what now? You're gonna leave me? The arrogance in her voice sent a fresh wave of rage through me. She still thought she had control, that she could manipulate her way out of this. I smirked. Oh, Wendy. You have no idea what's coming. Her confidence wavered. What do you mean? I grabbed my phone again and started scrolling. See, while you were busy sneaking around, I was busy too. Text records, emails, security footage. I looked up at her, my voice turning sharp. I have everything. Her face paled. You wouldn't expose you? I finished for her. Oh, I would. And not just to your friends. To your family. To your boss. To everyone. Panic flashed in her eyes. Jake, please, we can fix this. There's nothing to fix, I cut her off. You made your choice. Now, you deal with the consequences. She stared at me, breathing hard. For the first time since I confronted her, she looked genuinely afraid. Good. I picked up my keys and headed for the door. Where are you going? She called after me, her voice sharp. I paused, glancing back. To make sure you never forget what you've done. Then, I walked out, leaving her alone in the wreckage she created. The cold night air hit me like a slap, but it did nothing to cool the fire burning inside. Wendy's pathetic attempts at damage control replayed in my head, each excuse more insulting than the last. Lonely. Needed excitement. It wasn't about love. She really thought I'd buy that? She thought she could manipulate me into sweeping it under the rug. She had no idea who she was dealing with. I drove without a destination, my grip tight on the wheel. I could feel the storm inside me, a rage I had never known, but I refused to let it blind me. Revenge was best served cold, and I was about to deliver it ice-freaking cold. First, Logan. I pulled into a parking lot and grabbed my phone. Logan was a married man himself. I had met his wife, Rachel, a few times at work events. Sweet woman. She had no clue that the man she trusted was sneaking off to hotels with another man's wife. Time to change that. I scrolled through my files, selecting the most damning screenshots, texts, emails, the hotel footage. Then, with deliberate precision, I typed a message. Rachel, I think you deserve to know what your husband has been up to. I have proof. Call me. I attached the evidence and hit send. Seconds passed. Then a minute. Then my phone buzzed. Incoming call, Rachel Carter. I answered, keeping my voice steady. Rachel. Silence. Then, a shaky breath. Tell me this is some kind of sick joke. I sighed. I wish it was. Another pause. Then, voice trembling, how long? Months, I said, giving her the ugly truth. I don't know how many times. But enough. A strangled sob broke through the line. He told me he was working late. That he was, her voice cracked. He wasn't, I said flatly. I'm sorry. A long silence followed. Then, the sound of something shattering, maybe a glass, maybe the illusion of her perfect marriage. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. The heartbreak was still there, but something else had settled in. Anger. Thank you for telling me, she said, her tone steel. He won't see this coming. I smiled, a dark satisfaction settling in my chest. No, he won't. We ended the call, and I leaned back in my seat, exhaling slowly. One down. Now, Wendy. I wasn't done with her. Not even close. I scrolled through my contacts and called my lawyer, Daniel Harris. The man was a shark, a divorce attorney known for tearing cheaters apart in court. Jake, he greeted, his voice smooth. Didn't expect a call this late. What's up? I need to file for divorce. Immediately. A pause. Infidelity? Without a doubt. I have proof. Texts, emails, hotel security footage. Daniel whistled. That's airtight. We'll bury her. Good, I said. I want her to walk away with nothing. A chuckle. I like your style. Let's meet first thing tomorrow. We ended the call, and I finally allowed myself a moment to breathe. The plan was in motion. The walls were closing in on Wendy, and she had no idea just how badly she was about to lose. I checked my phone again. A text from Rachel. He just got home. I confronted him. You were right, he tried to deny it at first, then admitted everything. He's begging me not to leave. He's finished. Perfect. I typed back. Stay strong. He doesn't deserve you. She didn't reply, but she didn't need to. I knew she was already planning her own revenge. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I was calm. Focused. Wendy had probably spent the last hour panicking, rehearsing more lies, wondering how much I knew. I stepped inside. She was waiting in the kitchen, arms crossed, eyes red and puffy. Where the hell have you been? She demanded, her voice sharp. I smiled. Out. Her jaw clenched. Jake, we need to talk. I leaned against the counter, arms folded. Go ahead. She hesitated, then softened her tone, like she thought she could still manipulate me. I know I messed up. But we can fix this. I laughed. Fix this? I gestured between us. You mean us? Wendy, there is no us anymore. Her eyes flashed with anger. So that's it? You're just going to throw everything away? No, I said, stepping closer, lowering my voice. You threw everything away. I'm just taking out the trash. Her face twisted with rage. You think you're so smart, don't you? I smirked. Smarter than you. Want to know why? I pulled out my phone and showed her the email from my lawyer. Filed for divorce. First thing in the morning. She stared at the screen, mouth opening and closing, words failing her. You'll be hearing from my lawyer soon, I said, turning to leave. Oh, and you might want to check your phone. Her brows furrowed. What? I nodded toward her purse. Rachel knows. Her face went pale. She scrambled for her phone, unlocking it with shaking hands. A new message was waiting. You destroyed my family. I hope it was worth it. I walked away as Wendy collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt free. Wendy's sobs filled the room, but they didn't move me. Not anymore. I stood in the doorway, watching as she crumbled under the weight of her own choices. The same woman who once thought she could manipulate me, lie to my face, and humiliate me was now on the floor, shaking, realizing she had lost everything. She looked up, eyes red and desperate. Jake, please. I tilted my head. Please what? Her hands clenched into fists. I made a mistake, but it doesn't have to end like this. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. It ended the moment you decided to sneak around with Logan. I'm just making it official. She shot up, her whole body trembling. You want to punish me? Fine. I deserve it. But don't pretend you're innocent. You let our marriage get stale, you put work before me. I held up a hand, cutting her off. You're unbelievable. I let out a dry laugh. Even now, you can't just admit you screwed up. You have to blame me. She blinked rapidly, her mind scrambling for an angle, an excuse, anything that would let her regain control. But there was no control left. Jake, she whispered, stepping closer. Don't do this. I took a step back, disgust curling in my gut. I already did. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She hesitated, then grabbed it, reading the screen. Whatever she saw made her face twist in horror. I knew exactly what it was. I pulled out my own phone and checked my email. The official divorce filing confirmation from my lawyer had just been sent. To Wendy, to Logan, and to Rachel. Her voice cracked. You sent it to Rachel? I smirked. She deserved to know, don't you think? She clutched the phone like it was a grenade about to go off. Oh my God. Logan's going to lose everything. I shrugged. So are you. Her face contorted in fury. You son of a... Careful, Wendy, I cut in, my voice calm. You have nothing left to threaten me with. She let out a shaky breath, trying to steady herself. You want to destroy me, is that it? I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. No, Wendy. You destroyed yourself. I'm just making sure you feel it. She stared at me, hatred and regret swirling in her eyes. Then, something in her snapped. She hurled her phone across the room, screaming in frustration. I didn't flinch. She paced, running her hands through her hair. You don't understand. If Logan's wife leaves him, he won't help me. I'll have nothing. I raised an eyebrow. Did you really think he was going to leave Rachel for you? Her silence was my answer. She had built her entire affair on an illusion, that Logan actually cared about her beyond their sneaky hotel meetups. That he'd throw away his stable life to be with her. But now that I had exposed them, she was seeing the truth for the first time. I let her sit with it. Let her feel the crushing weight of everything falling apart. Finally, she turned back to me, eyes wild. We can fix this, she tried again. I know I messed up, but we... I laughed. Laughed. She froze. I took a step toward her, looking her dead in the eyes. Wendy. We are never fixing this. You made sure of that. She opened her mouth, then closed it, realizing there was nothing left to say. I grabbed my jacket, heading for the door. Where are you going? She asked, her voice small. I glanced back. Out. For how long? I smirked. Forever. I walked out, shutting the door behind me. I didn't look back. As I stepped into the night, my phone buzzed. A message from Rachel. Logan's begging me to stay. He's pathetic. I already called my lawyer. I smiled. Then, another message. This time from Daniel, my divorce attorney. Paperwork is in motion. She won't get a dime. Relief flooded through me. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. I climbed into my car and drove, the weight of Wendy's betrayal finally lifting. She had thought she could play her little games and come out unscathed. But the game was over. And I had won.